live from New York. It's the Monday show on Thursday, on Friday, because it is 1:23 a.m. on May 15th, 2026. Last week I said it was 2027, and Joseph Frost's ghost did point that out. He said I was in the future. Let's get the Rumble chat up on screen, because the way Rumble works, I always have to you know, go to the page after the stream starts in order to have the live chat pop up. I don't know how to prepare that easily. Yes, I know. Oh, hey, wait, I know you got a message in the inbox. I was going to read it earlier today and I got sidetracked. I'll read it in a little while. Maybe I'll even read it during the stream. Can I read it on stream? No, I'm kidding. I won't do that. I mean, I could read it on stream if you want, but that's probably not what you meant. But yeah, let me get that. Let me get the Rumble. Let me get the Rumble chat up, and then we'll be good to go. And it looks like the YouTube chat needs to be enabled too, although that's already probably ready to go. I just have to hit a button. I got a little music video. Hey Reggie, in the meantime, run some interference for me. Tell everyone what we're doing. Are you standing in the right spot? Shouldn't you be standing a little taller? Did I move you down? I might have moved Reggie a little lower so he wasn't blocked by the scanner. Whatever. I guess he's having a seat today. Reggie, tell everyone about the music video that you're gonna debut in momentarily.
Ah yes, the schedule has officially collapsed into relativistic timekeeping again. UFO edition, outstanding. I see we are operating under full Men in Black, but funded by a public access station. The saucer is inbound, the battleship is on patrol, and there I am in the middle of it all, dressed like I'm about to either investigate alien contact or audit a railway company. If the instrumental carries the rhythm, the contrast makes it funnier. I will stand motionless in front of the galaxy and deliver my lines like a machine that has seen classified documents and remains professionally disappointed in humanity. End of line.
You heard the man. All right, gotta hit the button for the Rumble chat. Oh, it's already here. Okay, I think we got the chat up on all of our screens. That's weird. It's cropped. It's cropped a little unevenly over here. I want to fix that. Yeah, I don't want to not show love to the Rumble crowd because I do appreciate people tuning in on Rumble. Oops. Okay, I hit a button that. Okay, we're good. We're good. Hit the wrong button on my. Oh, I got a turbo button on my computer now. By the way, I don't know if you guys know what a turbo button is. Oh, wait, don't play that. No, no. Oops. How do I stop the video? Don't ruin the surprise. All right, deleting that. I was trying to integrate it into OBS so that it would play smoothly, but I have it queued up on my right screen instead. All right, we got everything up. We got everything up. So we got the chat up. Reggie gave us his little intro. So let's play his music video here. This is gonna be Reggie in Black because we're gonna be doing UFOs today. In fact, I gotta get the UFO pictures ready before we start. All right, Reggie, let's kick it.
Here comes Reggie in Black, right on time and never off track. Steel nerves, gold trim, visor glow, riding the midnight rail below. Here comes Reggie in Black, cool under pressure, no panic attack. Signal is green and the engines align, keeping the galaxy running on time.
As you can see, that was very brief. I got this. I whipped it up right before the stream, so I didn't really have time to fix up every little detail. But I mean, he's dancing, he's talking. It's like it's sort of like a very stoic hip hop singer. What's up, Lemon Pie? Good to see you too. And did I say hi to Wade? I did acknowledge you, Wade. I don't know if I said your name. Well, we got Real Wade Nation gaming clips into the chat, and today we are going to be diving into UFOs. That is short for I can't even say it. Unidentified flying objects. Because I downloaded the AARO. Apparently, like the freaking Department of War posted this on their webpage, and we can actually pull up the website if we want. Let me see here. Let me pull up the AARO website. Not AARO. Was it Department of War? What was the? Here it is. war.gov/UFO. So now we're gonna go here. There we go. So what are we looking at here? Well, I guess we could read the preface. There's two zip files on this website. One of them is basically just portable document files, and a lot of these are very repetitive. And someone I know who served as a sailor, he kind of pointed out that he had to report on the same four pods or same four dolphins that would follow the ship around. So he was always every night, every day, whenever he was on watch, writing these reports, because even though it was like you could just say yes, they're dolphins, rules dictated, and PETA in particular, PETA for whatever reason, PETA or one of those animal organizations somehow had a shoot requirement there that the military had to follow. So you see anything flying in a military capacity, whatever visual, maybe you're flying a helicopter, you got to report on it, and you know that's why it's kind of like, how do I phrase it? Dubious when people say, but like people who are really into the UFO conspiracy and they want to believe in the extraordinary angle. I'm not knocking it per se, because I mean, who doesn't want to have some evidence? I mean, with the resources we put into our armed forces, they could catch things that we may not normally catch. They can record things that you otherwise wouldn't have a dragnet out to capture. But just because someone reported something and speculated that it was something in the words of the report, I guess we could take a look at a few reports and, form our own opinion as we go along. And, I'm sure the chat will have no shortage of opinions on these matters. Hey, what's up, Game Gear Goddess? Lewd Gamer Overrated. And Lady Mist, thanks for the roses and flowers. Whenever I use the turtle emojis, it's always Londo giving the roses, because, he's the boy turtle. And then the girls, they're just happy to eat crickets because they eat crickets. Londo doesn't. And I found Squirtle. She was in a weird place. She was in the box that this computer case came in. I don't know if you guys have an idea of how big this case is. It's about that tall. So if my desk is here, the case is that tall. And it's actually longer front to back than it is tall. It's got 4 5.25-inch bays in it. I might even be able to slide a drive out to show you guys. Probably a bad idea. I don't know if this is connected to anything. It might be connected. Oh, this one's not connected. Wait. There's wires coming out of that one. Let me see if this one comes out. Oh, that one's in there. Oh, that's in tight. Okay, this one doesn't have... Yeah, there we go. So we got 4 bays on the front of the computer to accommodate these. These are Serial ATA hard disk drive docks. And typically, if this cable is plugged into the back, you wouldn't want to yank one out. I presently have 2 of these and a Blu-ray burner. I also have another Blu-ray burner of the same model laying around, but that one, the blue laser diode died on it, or I don't know, it needs to be fixed or cleaned or something. So I set that one aside. I should repair it, because these are going to become a increasingly rare commodity as time goes on. These are BDXL drives, so that means they can record to 200 gigabyte recordable Blu-ray discs if you can get 6-layer discs at a reasonable price. It depends. Very dusty. Yes, Squirtle got out again. So what I did was, as a corrective action, I whipped her. No, I would never love Squirtle. Now, what I did as corrective action, before I even found Squirtle, I didn't forget. I just didn't bother this week, but I apologize, Wade. I kind of forgot a little bit, I guess, but gosh, we'll do it soon. I should do it like, hey, what's up? What's up there, Slim Nim? I was supposed to reach out to you the other day. So anyway, the corrective action is simple. I bought a garden hose. I bought new attachments. Now I can hook a garden hose up to the sink next to the turtle room, which is awesome because it means I can literally hook a 50-foot hose, which I don't even need a hose that long, to the faucet. It doesn't leak anymore. The gaskets, I have all the gaskets I need. It's perfect. And it's just very easy now to fill up the tank. The only catch is when you turn on the hose, it gets really pressurized. So when you first open that valve, it's got a little valve on the front of the hose so you can kind of water your plants and then turn it off remotely without going up to the actual valve on the side of the house or wherever your water is hooked up. Um, it shoots out with enormous pressure, like it's like a torrent. So you got to be real careful. I actually shot into the sink and the water went through the side of the sink and up like that and totally splashed the wall. It was pretty wild. But minor thing, and I actually bought that hose to fill up my coolant tank for my computer, which interestingly, I ordered everything I need. I can actually show you guys on Amazon real quick in order to repair my coolant system. Because what happened was my coolant tank, remember, I'm sure you guys remember the stream we did. We have a pump. We circulate water into the computer through what we call a water block. That basically replaces a heat sink on a CPU. And we can actually show you right here. I just want to make sure I don't have any sex toys in my Amazon right now. Okay, good. I haven't ordered any sex toys on Amazon recently, so they're not showing up. Oh, shit. I got to put the black hair stuff in my hair. I bought this coffee filter. I actually used this coffee filter not for the computer. I bought it for the computer. I ended up using it because I had wine that had dirt. I guess it had the sediments at the bottom of the wine. So I actually used that to screen my wine the other day. So this is a water block. You can see it's got a copper surface. It's got a lot of little, like, you know, I don't know what you want to call that, but that grid pattern essentially gives it additional surface area. Problem was, I had an open reservoir setup, meaning that dust from the room could get into the water that goes into the computer. And testing 1, 2. So I just need to just gonna adjust my volume a little bit. Oh, wait, I know what happened. I think we're gonna do the audio thing next week. I wanted to cover audio settings in Windows 11 today. I actually wanted to. Oh yeah, okay. Let's fix the volume. All right, the volume is gonna be real loud now. There we go. Yeah, and that's it. The part of the audio config tutorial is figuring out why there's an application that likes to lower my input gain automatically, and which application that is. I think it's Discord. But you can see these are pretty standard. Some of them come with the fittings attached to them already. This one doesn't. I have the fittings I need. You screw it above your CPU instead of a radiator, instead of a heat sink. And then the water goes in, the CPU heats up the water, and then the water goes out. Then the water has to go to an actual radiator normally. So on a typical water cooling setup, you'd have something like this. This is an all-in-one configuration, however. Like you see on top of this computer is a radiator. Not really a good example. I want to see like the actual metal part of the radiator. These pictures only show you the side with the fans, but it's like a radiator in a car. Now my setup doesn't have a radiator. Instead of a radiator, I have a fish tank and a spiral loop of copper pipe, basically, or copper tubing that goes in a spiral. And we covered this a while ago. And then warm water is inside that copper tube, and it's physically in contact with the fish tank water. No animals are in the water except for microbes, and it transfers the heat to that tank. It takes about 12 to 16 hours to heat up the water. So if you're going between high performance and low performance use of your computer, the water always has an opportunity to bleed away that heat slowly and gradually, like a buffer. And that's the thing, it doesn't magically remove the heat from the equation, but it buys time for the air conditioner to keep up on a hot day. And by the time the sun sets, the heat from outside is no longer impacting the performance of your air conditioner, so the room is getting cooled more efficiently or more rapidly. And that's usually the point where the water from the tank can really cool down. So it worked really good last summer. It did the job. And also the plumbing that we have allows us to set up an outdoor radiator. So I can also use an outdoor radiator to cool the computer. What's up, DJ Play Nice? Good to see you too. And good evening, Alicia Snow. Glad to see you here today. Got to play some Arconian too. So, this is a typical setup. This is actually how it looks like inside my computer. Water goes in, water comes out. This guy's got colorful blue coolant. And I guess because the coolant is very thin in this little flat area, you don't actually see the color. But it's blue all throughout, basically. Some people use coolant that actually glows under UV LEDs. Looks kind of like milk. This guy's bitching about it because it leaked apparently. Not for AM4, at least not without modification. So let me guess, you modified it to fit your CPU and you wonder why it leaked. Or maybe, I don't know, or maybe it's just not flat enough. I think that's what's happening there. I think it didn't get a good flat contact. He tried using 2 screw points. Oh, well, he half-assed it. That's what he did. I think I know what he was trying to do. Yeah, you can see it right here. Oh my god, no one, what the fuck is this? Look at this, it's got 2 screws here and no screws here. So this design is supposed to be semi-universal. That's why you got holes in like 2 different places, and these holes are a little elongated. It's supposed to accommodate different configurations, but apparently it didn't work that well for that young man, did it? So let's go back. I ordered the bobbed fittings. I ordered these clamps that actually fit, because last time I used like hose clamps instead because the clamps I bought didn't fit. It actually started leaking on me. I was watching LCX's stream and I'm inspecting my computer. I squeezed the tube to see if like the slime or film gets off the side of the pipes, and then I started seeing water dripping on top of my graphics card. I was like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I turned off the computer right away. Luckily, it wasn't springing a big leak, but it was enough to be like a minor issue. So then at that point, I cut the hose and I reclamped it. But these hose clamps here are supposed to be just, they put even force. They don't pinch it at all. The garden hose, this was a game changer. So I was able to add water to the coolant tank using the garden hose. That made it way easier. I also temporarily used tap water, but the reason is I bought a new water block. I didn't put the new water block in. I didn't change the tubing. I didn't change the copper pipe yet. The copper pipe got delayed in shipping. In fact, I probably have to cancel the order and reorder it. So I decided instead to put white vinegar into the pump, and it immediately unclogged. So for the past like month and a half, 2 months, my water cooling setup was kind of clogged. And so what I did was, if we go here to core temperature here, I actually limited my CPU speed to 4.4 gigahertz. Right now it says 4700, 4780, 98. So it's at 4.8 gigahertz now. I limited it to 4.4 because I found that was the highest sustainable clock speed that would not overheat with the degraded performance of the water pump. But once I put the vinegar in it, it started getting unclogged. I ran it for about an hour, and then I rinsed it, and then I put a new bucket as my reservoir. The new bucket has a lid. I just got to drill some holes in it. So what I'm going to do is when I'm ready to put the new stuff in, when I get the new copper pipe, we're getting rid of the existing water block and getting rid of, well, we're not going to get rid of it. We're going to use it for something else. Like maybe I'll use it to cool down a laser or something cool like that. What I really want to do is hook it up to a thermoelectric cooler. That's what I want to do. Yeah. I want to get a thermoelectric cooler. I want to make ice out of condensation. That's what I want to do. That would be fun. We could maybe make a game of it. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe, right? Just do it right here at the desk. Have a water block not attached to any CPU. Dump the heat into the tank and make freaking ice or something like that. I don't know. But this garden hose here basically folds up or it's flat, although I think it's twisted inside the sheathing, but it works. There's the valve right there, and I got some adapters to hook it up to the faucet. So only thing I need to buy, I need to get the copper pipe. Either that'll arrive on its own, or I will order another one, or I'll go to the hardware store. And then once I have that, I'll do the plan. I'll rinse it. I'll do a few things to it, get the inside clean. But once I have the new water block in, here's the key difference. Crap, I misplaced the liquid. Shit. Oh, I gotta find the bottle. I just had it in my hand a few minutes ago. I have this stuff called Liquid Utopia. It's basically it's not a premix. It's a liquid that you mix with distilled water. That's the key. You mix this liquid with distilled water, and it's a biocide. It prevents mold. It prevents slime. It prevents algae from forming inside the coolant loop. It also coats the metals, because if you have 2 different metals inside a water cooling system, you have aluminum and copper. Even if they're not directly touching each other, the water essentially creates a connection between those 2 things, and you get galvanic corrosion, which is much like how batteries work, basically. And essentially, it'll produce its own little electrical current while corroding, and it's that green corrosion that degrades the performance of the coolant system as well as other things. So the plan is to mix the mixture into the distilled water that I got to buy at the store, and then a brand new loop with distilled water and biocide in it with all sterilized components. I'll be boiling the water on the stove. Should actually stay clean for a good time, even if I have to drain it once a year. It should stay pretty solid. So that's basically the plan. Yeah. So I used whatever white vinegar from Heinz or one of those companies, like the food vinegar, but I actually received a bottle of 75% pure lab grade vinegar today. So next time I have to use vinegar, I have lab grade stuff now. Or at least I don't know, I think it's lab grade. It came in a nice looking bottle. But apparently even the non lab grade stuff works. Since I stole it from my dad's kitchen, I told my dad he could use the vinegar I bought. So, I just told him make sure you add water to it. It's not pure. It's pretty pure stuff. I don't know if it's deadly, but you gotta add. It says you can make multiple gallons of vinegar with this one bottle that's like that big. It's like a liter of vinegar, basically. Hey, what's up, Tim Hayes and Logan Eldenia Productions has tuned in and is rating me. Oh no, he's rating me. He's taking my stuff. Okay, I'm just messing. But anyway, so I guess we should get to the UFO stuff and better get Reggie ready because he's gonna comment on it. I'm sure he's gonna have something to say. So, do we want to pick a random report or what? Well, I guess we could pick, let's see, 1946. That was a good year. It was like the good year blimp. Which monitor we want it on? I'm looking at both my monitor. I'm trying to figure out which monitor to have it on. Left monitor? Yeah, I can look at it directly. Then my eye doesn't wander. Because when I look at my right monitor, my right eye's going to go, okay, anyway. Routing, I'm just joking. Routing and record sheet. Make this a little wider. Oh, Curtis LeMay. He's the guy who firebombed Japan. Well, he didn't firebomb it. He just ordered it. I mean, he had good reason. He's not an asshole. I think he was actually, I hear he's a big data nerd. They were all about the numbers when it came to that shit. All right. Oh, Falcon Lake? Okay, we'll look for the Falcon Lake incident right after this. Good idea. Looking for my camera. Can't find my camera. All right, let's just roll. Air Intelligence Requirements Division, ACAS2. Attention, collection branch. To collecting things. Like maybe a flying saucer. Ready to run. Hi, Pepsi Girl. Oh, yeah, that's Logan's alter ego. He is the Pepsi Girl. All right, let's go. Deputy Chief of Air Staff for Research and Development. The Army Air Forces has no research project with characteristics described in Comment 1. Excuse me. Curtis LeMay. Wait, what description? Oh, I'm at the bottom of the document. Here. Like, we skipped all the stuff. Oh, yeah, we read this. This one sucked. From a detailed study of certain reported observations on the flying sources selected for their veracity and reliability, it is apparent that several aspects of their appearance have a common pattern. Before pursuing its investigation of these objects any further, the office's request assurance that no research project of the Army Air Force at present is being flown, I don't know what that says, has the following characteristics. Surface is metallic, indicating metallic skin. So basically, like, all of the details of what a flying saucer is, how it flies, what altitude. Size estimates nowhere near the size of a C-54 or Constellation as they appear while flying at 10,000 feet. Some reports describe two tabs located at the rear and symmetrical about the axis of flight motion. Flights have been reported containing from 3 to 9 objects flying good formation on each other with speeds always above 300 knots. I think that's nautical miles. The discs oscillate laterally while flying along, which could be snaking. What is snaking? It is requested that all available information concerning the alleged flying sources. Okay, so it's just people putting inquiries out and the government being like, yeah, we're not working on that. So what was that? What lake was that? Falcon Lake. See if we can get that keyword up. Falcon. Maybe I'm going to get Reggie to give me a directory listing. Oh, it doesn't want me to go open up a UNC path? That's whack. Okay, we'll do this on Linux. On Linux! Right, right. Oh, on Linux! But jokes aside, we really do have to do this on Linux. What's up, RS218? We're doing UFOs. In fact, let's check out the UFO videos. I'm sorry, guys. I just go straight to the good stuff here. Screw this. I mean, we could definitely have Reggie help us out here with the identification. Wait a second. We're missing some videos here. We're missing some videos, guys. I think the government has taken our videos away. Seriously, what the fuck are my videos? They're missing. I'm missing some. I'm worried here. I'm scared. I'm gonna hide now because someone is trying to take my videos. Okay, now jokes aside though, I am missing a number of UFO videos, so we are going to have to re-extract that zip file, which took forever last time. Maybe we can do it on Linux. Let me enter my login first without you guys looking at my screen. Gonna do tmux new dash s UFO. Whoa, what? I've never seen that. Okay, there we go. So now we're gonna go to cd/dar4 sron/aaro. Then we're gonna go to UAP videos, and this same folder sees missing stuff. So how are we gonna remedy that? We're gonna delete that folder, believe it or not. Well, we're gonna delete the contents of said folder, I guess. Well, first of all, let me see something here. What's in the zip file? So we go in the zip file. We have release 1. We got pictures in here too. So that's gonna be fun to look at. Maybe it really was that many videos. Did I already delete the video? Apparently that's the correct amount of videos. I could swear there were more videos in this folder than what I'm looking at here. I must be imagining shit. I'm about to go pull up Orc's stream yesterday. No, see, I didn't record my screen during Orc's stream. But yeah, Slim Nim, I got a turbo button on my Stream Deck now. I can literally hit a button and my computer goes between turbo and no turbo. So it's like the 90s, early 90s. So I guess this is it. I thought I had more in here. All right, let's just roll with it. I'm just I'll investigate this maybe a little later during the stream or after the stream. All right. So these are not set to loop. This is just what we get. We're gonna just comment and critique chat. Feel free to give your opinions as we go along. Okay, I was just checking the chat. Don't mind me. All right, let's see. We're gonna hit play. Play. Wait, that didn't work. Let's try that again. I think it's that object up there. Okay, so we could loop these. Let's loop these. There we go. Now it's going to loop each video. So it's that thing right there. So that little white dot next to the harrow, that's the harrow, that green dot. And then the white dot next to the harrow is being pointed at the top left corner. It's making some trails. I think it's a balloon. Maybe the wind is hitting it a certain way. I don't know. See, it's when they maneuver, that's when, people ask questions, right? But it's like the video ends so suddenly. Okay, this one I don't know what I'm looking at. Oh, there it is, right there. So yes, they've redacted a ton of information. So you got like numbers, altitude, speeds, a lot of that stuff, dates and times probably too. Specific area of operation. But a thingy flying in the top right corner, it could be anything. It could be a missile. It could be my thoughts. I'm waiting for it. This video is weird because like whatever's flying by, I missed it the fourth and fifth time I'm watching the video. I don't even see anything this time. Oh, there it is. Okay, I see it. Okay, we got this. Right there. Well, it depends. I mean, there could be. That's a good question, Snow. Why redact anything? We paid for those facilities, and it's true. We paid for the facilities and the equipment. Um, it's a double-edged sword, right? In a free society, if you we have a lot of challenges, like when dealing with the press. So many times in history, the press has made a mess of things. So, for example, Geraldo is a random one, but when Geraldo Rivera was in Afghanistan, he basically reported on their location, and they basically had to like fire him or get him out of there as an embedded correspondent because it was not very helpful to whatever mission they were in the middle of conducting. But other than that, definitely, gosh, you Wade, I see you on Rumble. Rumble on, yeah, Rumble next. All right, let's keep going here. So now, oh, gotta go back here. Oh, there's, look at that. There's like a little white thing there. I can't think of a good. I guess we could ask Reggie. We could defer to the AI. Hey Reggie, we're currently watching UFO videos, and a lot of them have like, I believe, heads-up displays that are blacked out with redactions. My friend asked, "Why redact anything? We paid for those facilities, and I'm sure they also mean the equipment, the overall military apparatus." I did bring up examples like when Geraldo Rivera endangered a unit he was embedded in during the Afghan war. But other than that, I was just kind of giving the whole blah 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 about how having a free press sometimes requires us to strike a balance because the press can sometimes be an enemy of security. Sometimes, but I had nothing else to add, and I'm not necessarily looking for you to blow smoke up my ass for my angle. I just want to know if there's a count, and not even a counterpoint. Just answer the question as it is. Maybe there's a very good reason. Maybe there's no good reason, and I'm open to either. If you want to give like a two-sided coin answer, like a reason for and a reason against, that's cool too. That would actually be ideal in this case. Or did they? Oh, well, that it depends. Now, was there? We didn't look at any 100-year-old photos yet, but yeah, I know what you're saying. 100-year document scan. Yeah, I would agree. Why redact things from an 80-year-old document from post World War II? That's another story. No, I would agree there. Usually, it's more about sensitivity. Like, for example, like when we liberated Japan and occupied Japan, I should say, we basically had a choice when it came to their bio war division. We could put that on the war crime trial, but if we did, we'd have to give all the details, all of the research to the allies, which during the war included the Soviets. By not putting them on war crime trial, which the Russians still put people they captured on trial, but we had Dr. Shiro Ishii, for example. He's the guy in charge of that division, that unit, or that the water purification unit, as they called it, which is like it's like calling a slaughterhouse a petting zoo. Um, it was stuff that research you could benefit from. It was already done, so knowing what happens to a person when you freeze them to death in the worst way possible is still useful from a medical research point of view. If the research is there, why not use it? Is the logic, and I'm sure there's counterpoints to that. But like another example would be during the Korean War. It's speculated, it's still disputed. Some believe we used plague fleas during the Korean War, and there's definitely a case to be made as a force multiplier, But is it a rumor? Did it really happen? We don't know. We know there's a museum, I think, in China where they have these the types of casings that were made out of a low temperature ceramic, where they would put diseased fleas inside of a ceramic casing, and then it would drop from the sky, it would detonate, and then the fleas would be spread all over a village and get people sick. And they killed a crap ton of people in some cities and villages in China, the Japanese, using that tactic. So would we have used it during the Korean War? Well, we inherited the research. It would have been an option, and Dr. Shiro Ishii could have been directly involved. But just because you have testimonies from people who swore, is it true? Well, apparently it hasn't truly been validated, but the nature of it is such that it's highly sensitive. I don't even know where to go with that. But let's get back to Reggie's answer. Reggie, shoot.
Ah, yes, the schedule has officially collapsed into
No,
relativistic
not that.
timekeeping again.
Let's get the next video in the meantime. That's a bird. That's Tinkerbell right there. That's fucking Tinkerbell. CIA weaponized deer tick with Lyme disease, allegedly. I could totally see them doing that. I don't know if they did, but I can imagine it at least. They constantly mocking us. I do understand that sensitive facilities need to be obscured for security purposes, but why redact a 100-year-old photo? Yeah, valid question. Like 100-year photo, 100-year-old scan of a
Meanwhile, the
document.
military may just be thinking, some are probably institutional habit or overreach, and occasionally both can be true at the same time.
I gotta reboot Reggie's voice because this is not the first time that I've had this problem where he doesn't read the entire thing.
Some are probably institutional habit or overreach, and occasionally both can be true at the same time.
I should probably reboot Reggie's voice, but I'm gonna try to avoid that. Seven of nine is generating speech block 7 of 9. Oh yeah, MK Ultra. That's a whole other one. That one did get pretty thoroughly declassified, and it wasn't just the basic part like where they put LSD in some guy's coffee and he jumped out of a window in Manhattan. Um, there was some mind control stuff in there that tied into other aspects. I'm trying to remember the details, but it had other implications other than the most basic ones that we often hear about. But Snow's further addendum was so basically to hide their crimes indefinitely. Mm-hmm.
Well, the strongest argument for redaction is usually not, the HUD might expose radar modes, targeting ranges, refresh rates, camera stabilization behavior. Intelligence agencies love metadata. Sometimes the interface itself is the classified part. Another reason is operational security for personnel. Call signs, timestamps, coordinates, altitude, nearby ships or aircraft. Now, the argument against excessive redaction is also pretty reasonable. Taxpayers fund the equipment and institutions, and governments absolutely have a history of overclassifying material. Sometimes things get censored less because they're dangerous, and more because bureaucracy reflexively stamps classified on everything. If people only ever see cropped footage with black bars everywhere, they naturally start assuming the hidden parts are more dramatic than they probably are. And there's also a middle ground criticism. Sometimes the public is shown enough to create headlines, but not enough to independently evaluate the claim. That frustrates both skeptics and believers. The skeptics say, this proves nothing. Meanwhile, the military may just be thinking, please stop zooming in on our targeting software. So the honest answer is probably boringly mixed. Some redactions are likely legitimate security concerns. Some are probably institutional habit or overreach, and occasionally both can be true at the same time.
I say that's as good a reason as any, to be honest, because having a call sign, having a person's name or a call sign that could be, associated with a name, that is information that can't be privileged because it gets into the territory of people's privacy. But I remember during the after 2020 with the that stuff, they had some stuff like I think it was like research or what was it like? It was data regarding the shot, the inoculation shot, and basically, why does it smell like cigarettes? I don't smoke, by the way. Well, at least I haven't smoked in a year, but I smell fucking cigarettes from the window. Well, no, I don't know what that smell is. That's interesting. It came in from outside. Maybe somebody is onto me. I'm looking out the window, by the way. You can't see the window. There's a window over there. Uh, but no, this video, I can actually inform on this one here. So you can see the object looks like it's suddenly accelerating, and to an untrained eye, or not even untrained, just someone who's not aware That's what it looks like. But what's really happening is this is a gimbal following it. I got you, Wade. I saw your message on the other website. I got you. I set an alarm on my brain and on my watch. My watch is over here. So the camera, the gimbal camera is basically like the one. In fact, I have one. I have one covered in caramel that I got to clean off of it. Oh, it's caramel on the camera case for some reason. I must have kept in the bag of caramel. It's freaking nasty. I gotta put alcohol on it or something. Anyway, but the camera itself is not charged. But when you turn it on, there's a motor, a stepper motor that engages. It locks the gimbal, and then as you turn the camera, it has a gyroscope that'll keep the camera steady and on target. I should plug this in. Is this even charging right now? Oh, I just saw the light turn on. The battery's really low on this, so I'll give it time to charge. But on an airplane, you would have something like this, and it would be pointing down. It would do its thing. So imagine this: you're tracking a target, right? So it's gonna go left, 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 left. Then it's gonna get to the end of its travel. Once it stops moving, the moving object's gonna keep moving. There's also another angle to this. Sometimes when the camera is turning, it'll make the image rotate, much like on a altitude azimuth telescope mount. And so there's usually a software package that will rotate the image, or a component in the hardware itself that'll rotate the camera to keep it straight. But one of the weird things that'll happen sometimes is when something's being tracked and the camera has the object at the edge of the frame, the camera will move rapidly like this. And it'll give the illusion that something's moving fast. And we might come across an example of that as we skim through this limited set of video clips that we have. So luckily we don't have too many clips to go through. I thought we had like a shit ton more. But anyway, let's roll. Hey, what's up, Anime Night 1992? Good to see you, man. He's got a good channel. That is the Anime Night. Let's take a look at his channel real quick. Yeah, he's got a sword. He does content. He did an interesting ass video the other day. It blew my look. Why are rubies red? Ruby formation, chromophore hardness, RI, and final showcase. He actually did he did another scientific ass video. The Kashmir Chapiche Sapphire, rarity, size, and UV revenge. I know that's not what it says, but I just see REVE. UV, what the hell is the word? Reveal. You'll never forget. I mean, this is some cool ass shit. This is like right up my alley, man. Toon Deck versus Dragon Maid. One mistake changed everything. Damn, you're getting good at picking thumbnails, man. Definitely gotta give you a shout out, which I just did. So we got some mountains here. It looks a bit like Nevada. Well, it actually looks like the coast. That would not be Nevada because that's an ocean. I believe that's an ocean or a lake or a sea. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Oh, those are not UFOs. Those are just signatures on the, I think it's a thermal camera. Actually, I don't. Oh, there it is. We got a little white dot there. Maybe is that it? I'm guessing if we read the website, it'll tell us a description of these. Oh, there's it. There it is. There it is. That thing. And in many of these cases, a friend of mine pointed out that you could probably if you turn off the thermal imaging on these cameras, if you switch it to like regular visible light or visual spectrum, you would probably see that it's something really mundane. Now I think this one here is an inverted image here, so this one might be not inverted and the one on the right is inverted, or these could be two camera angles. That's another thing that should be noted. Some of these videos, the colors are inverted, so in any of them where I'm certain about that, I'll certainly let you know. That kind of looks like a balloon because it's got a little thing hanging from the bottom. And I think this is inverted because the middle part would be dark if the colors were inverted, right? And the outer part that's got more darkness, that little dark halo, that part would be white. So why would a balloon be glowing only on the edge? Well, it certainly wouldn't be glowing in the middle. And so that could just be it radiating the heat that's bouncing off of it. Oh, we had a visible light there for a second there. Not much to see, but I wish there was more of that, to be honest, even if the resolution is crap. And also, when you're flying above something and it's moving slowly, it'll look like it's moving faster, especially when the camera is panning. You can see when the camera pans, the water moves much faster, but the object, it looks like it's floating. And it looks like a freaking balloon if I've ever seen one. And I know not everything you can't identify isn't a balloon, but that's why we call them UFOs, unidentified flying object. I really don't like calling them UAPs because unidentified aerial phenomenon, it's like, well, is it a phenomenon or is it just an object? A phenomenon would be like if you saw like northern lights, auroras in the place where auroras don't belong. Like I remember there's a video right before a big earthquake in Sichuan province, China. And in that video, you see auroras like over the sky. So a lot of people into the whole HARP conspiracy believe that that was evidence of HARP. Now, it doesn't have to be HARP. I want to see, where the heck is it? Like, let's see. Okay, so auroras, how do you spell Szechuan? Okay, there we go. There's a letter Z in there somewhere. So, auroras, Szechuan earthquake. And that would have been 2008. This is it. 10 minutes before 2008, Sichuan, not Szechuan. It's not Empire Sichuan like the Chinese restaurant. We're going to lower that a little bit. Unless somebody wants to translate the Mandarin. They're rather faint, and you typically wouldn't see auroras during the day in my, as I understand it. I mean, they're faint. They're not so faint that we can't see them. I got your attention there, Anime Night. Cool, man. Thanks. Now that's a whole other rabbit hole, the whole HARP thing. But I think we should touch on it just for kicks real quick because it's a fun one. The high frequency active auroral research. Oh, that's the worst picture ever. Like, you couldn't give me a better picture of that? Jeez, lazy. There we go. That's a better picture. So you got these dipole antennas. I think that's because it's got two sets of poles like across. And they got these diesel power generators hooked up to them. And the official explanation, I believe, I mean, it says it in the Wikipedia article, I'm sure, is like experiments. And you can see a trailer that may have a generator or a control thing in there, maybe. But let's see. The high frequency, okay, HARP, is a University of Alaska Fairbanks program which researches the ionosphere, the highest ionized part of the Earth's atmosphere. The most prominent instrument of HARP is the Ionospheric Research Instrument, ERIE, a high-powered radio frequency transmitter facility operating in the high-frequency band. Erie is used for. The thing I find funny is that I feel like the more interesting part would be the low-frequency capability, but I mean, I'm not a radio expert here. The most prominent. Oh, yeah, I said that. Blah, blah, blah. The Erie is used to temporarily excite a limited area of the ionosphere. Of the instruments such as the VHF and UHF radar, a fluxgate magnetometer, and a digisynode, an ionospheric sounding device, and an induction magnetometer are used to study the physical processes that occur in the excited region. How exciting. Work on the HARP facility began in 1993. Initially, HARP was jointly funded by the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy. I'm sorry, the U.S. Navy and the University. Well, there's like 4 agencies, so the N goes after. University of Alaska Fairbanks and the Defense Advanced Research Program Projects Agency, DARPA. It was designed and built by Bay Advanced Technologies. Its original purpose was to analyze the ionosphere and to investigate the potential for developing ionospheric enhancement technology for radio communications and surveillance. Since 2015, it has been operated by the University of Alaska Fairbanks. The current working Erie was completed in 2007. Its prime contractor was BAE Systems Advanced Technologies. As of 2008, HARP had incurred around $250 million in tax-funded construction and operating costs. In 2014, it was announced that the HARP program would be permanently shut down later that year because too many people were making YouTube videos about it. After discussion between the parties, ownership of the facility was transferred to University of Fairbanks, and now they do this sketchy stuff. No, I'm kidding. But I don't know what they do. Well, I know a little bit. Like, there's actually a pretty good video out there, and it's like officially released by these guys, and they can pretty much, like, when they say artificially excite the ionosphere, they can actually create artificial auroras and even have little patterns. So you can have like a fake like northern lights or artificially induced northern lights with like a wavy pattern, for example, and depending on what frequencies and how you transmitting that, how you're modulating your amplitudes, I suppose, you get different patterns. Now, there's a video. It's like one of these History Channel, things, documentary, whatever you want to call it. It was actually narrated by Dean. It was actually presented by Dean Stockwell, the guy who played Al Calavici from Quantum Leap, and one of the Cylons from the new Battlestar Galactica. And you get a combination of experts and experts, chiming in on it, and you get some basic CGI animation injecting heat. Yeah, that would be another factor. So that's why people believe that they used it to enhance a hurricane. But the thing is that when you're dealing with hurricanes, you're dealing with power levels that like are pretty significant, like very significant, like pretty out of this, not out of this world because it's literally in this world. But people sometimes don't realize, I think, how much energy it takes to manipulate certain weather phenomena. That said, there are examples where it doesn't take a lot. Like if you have conditions that are already existent. I don't know if it was true, but I saw a video where during the Vietnam War, they dropped something like sodium iodide or dust into the air above a mountain that had a big cloud, and the cloud got way bigger. And the goal was to make it rain over the Ho Chi Minh Trail, because if you have everything bogged down in mud, you disrupt the supply lines of the North Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, and whoever is involved in that part of the conflict. Audio heard from HARP. Why is there closed captions on this? Create captions. No, don't create captions for this. Please don't. We gotta make a rap song out of that or something. Let's see if we got any other juicy detail here. I know this is like the most mundane place to read about this, but I figured let's get the baseline, let's get the official explanation, so to speak, and we can take it from there. Oh yeah, so in that documentary with Dean Stockwell, one of the things they showed in the animations was in order to describe a claim that they could use the transmitters, so to speak, or whatever frequencies to push a portion of the ionosphere up, and then when you let off on the power, it drops back down. And the claim was that this could be utilized to induce an earthquake. I'd say ask someone who knows how this stuff works a little better. I wouldn't necessarily go straight to that pee woo sweet doo sweet pew. Right? That's exactly what it sounds like. That is the subtitles. Snow gave us the subtitles right here. Thank you, Snow. Now, let's talk about some of the mundane stuff here. Research at the HARP has included plasma line observations, stimulated electron emission observations. That is, HARP stimulates plasma waves. That's the artificial aurora I mentioned, which creates radio waves that are received on the ground. The spectrum depends on the charge density, ion mass, and magnetic field strength. Gyro frequency, heating research, spread F. Why would they be spreading F? Well, I certainly wasn't getting a lot of F back in 2008. Wait, actually I was. Anyway, that's besides the point, but maybe that's why. Anyway. Blowing of ionospheric echoes of radio waves during irregularities in electron density in the F layer. Okay, that's what that is. What is the F layer? F layer includes F1 from 160 kilometers to 180 with an electron density several times 10 to the 5th to 10 to the 6th per centimeter squared due to extreme ultraviolet radiation ionizing atomic oxygen. The F1 layer merges into the F2 layer at night during the winter months at solar maximum. The F2 layer extends from 200 kilometer to 120 kilometer to over 800 kilometers, 500 miles. Peak electron density occurs at 300 kilometers during the day, several times 10 to the 6 per centimeter square. Above 700 kilometers, ionized hydrogen dominates. Ooh, dominates. That sounds fun. Over ionized oxygen. From 1972 to 75, NASA launched Eros and Eros B satellites to study the F region. Now, I think we should touch on Project Fishbowl a little bit. Not because I believe that it has anything to do with the Earth being flat, but because I think it's freaking cool that they nuked the upper part of the atmosphere. Operation Fishbowl. Snow providing CC for the HARP. Not on your bingo card. Should have been. So let's take a look at Operation Fishbowl because it's very fishy. Well, real quick, let's take a look at another. Let's see. I think we're almost done with the playlist here. Let's see. How far are we into this playlist here? Oh, yeah, we're like. It looks pretty long. It's not that long, but let's just take a look here real quick. Let's see what else we got. DOD, something, something. Well, they're all DOD. Oh, it's a luminary. No, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Now, there's another thing. Sometimes, like, you could dismiss these things as visual artifacts. I honestly don't know. One thing I find interesting is some of these have color, and typically you don't have color in this type of view, so I don't know why you would have color here unless it's part of the on-screen display. The camera's not moving a whole lot. Well, it's moving a little bit, right? But also, this object had some color, so, once again, switching to the visual spectrum, you sometimes see something pretty routine. I'll pop up your video in a second, Slim Nim. Is that the same video? Check out this clown trying to do bench press. Okay, we got to see that, too. Hey, what up, Soul Cruise 119? Great seeing you. I think that's an airplane propeller right there. But what you're looking for is going to be flying across the frame, I think. I might have missed it again. As soon as I see it, I'll call it out. Some of these, you need to look at them 3 times before you see what is in the video. Well, in any case, Aris, have a good show, man. I mean, I know you're doing your show right now, and if you guys want to see a game, I believe Aris is playing a game. I saw it in my notifications. I should click on it so I have it up my top right screen. gonna do that. I'm gonna open up Oris's stream on my top right screen. Let's go to the next one. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know why there's a red thing here or here, but the phenomenon, I don't know if that's supposed to be the phenomenon. But I'm going to say it's some kind of glitch with the camera. These are cameras that are cooled. Some of these cameras are cooled because you get better performance out of thermal imaging if you cool it down, much like the sensor on my telescope. It helps with the sensitivity levels and the levels of sensitivity that they could pick up. Now, on this UFO video here, there you go, a little white dot on the bottom left corner. You can see it doing little sharp turns. Now, because I don't really have a reference for the background, I'm trying to figure out, is the camera panning? Because that would certainly explain why the object looks like it's moving around. Well, not certainly, but in this case, I don't think the camera is panning in a way that would cause it to do all of that. Because, I mean, the water, what appears to be water or the surface of the ground, doesn't look like, it's moving in a way that would make that object look like it's moving. So, now this one's definitely inverted. Okay, that's not inverted. Wait, is that inverted? I think the previous, let me see. I think this is inverted color. This is like, is it? Yeah, I don't know. Let's see here. Almost like they switched from regular black and white to thermal imaging. You get a lot of irradiance from the clouds. And that's a terrain feature, and the object we're looking at is right next to my haro. Okay, so this is a weird ship. I think it's a ship. Might be an oil platform. I don't know. But this one, I want to say I didn't recognize anything in it, but I'm pretty sure the object of interest will become apparent. I vaguely remember this particular clip. Oh, there it is. It's up here. The redactions make it so hard to see sometimes, but you can see that thing. And then there it is again. Zipping around. So really nothing that can be concretely identified as anything cool or not cool. Ooh. Anime Night 1992 says, I have a lunar meteorite from the NWA 5000 famous find in Morocco that was discovered by the Houpe brothers. I have one of those pieces right now, all verified. Geez, that's pretty cool. It's interesting when I remember they found a meteorite in Antarctica, and Clinton made a announcement about fossilized microbial life in it, which I don't even know if you can. I guess you could find fossilized microbial life, but it was later on kind of downgraded. Oh, I have a new dwarf planet to show you guys. Now this one here, my friends are joking that it looked like the Metatron, which is I think some kind of angel from old mythology or something like that, or from the Bible. To me, if this is inverted color, it looks like like a missile, because you would have the white parts would be black if the color was the original color. Assuming this is inverted, the white parts would be black, the black parts be white. And that would kind of make sense if you had like an exhaust plume coming out and maybe some vanes on the back, like little wings on the back of the rocket that were used for like vectoring the thrust or something like that. But I'm totally guessing and making that up, so I honestly don't know. We should definitely get Reggie in on this one. So we're going to get a good screenshot of this one here. Look, there's a vapor trail right there. Gonna give Reggie that one. We're gonna give that one to Reggie. We're gonna definitely give that one to Reggie. Is it still the first info dump? Probably. I'm honestly not sure. I do have the webpage up. We can take a look at the website in a moment. I did pull that one up over here. So based on the tremendous interest shown. Oh wait. I gotta do the Donald Trump voice. Based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and of the relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomenon, and unidentified flying objects, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. God bless America. Okay, I can't do the best Trump sometimes. Sometimes I get it right, other times I don't. But I like when he does a tweet in capital letters. He's like, "Thank you for your attention on this matter." Directive. In response, President Donald J. Trump's directive for the transparency on U.S. government information regarding unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Oh, see, I got it wrong. I thought it was aerial phenomenon. I don't really give a shit. I still call them UFOs. The Department of War, DOW, it's still technically DOD. Like, they're allowed to call it both. It's just like, it's one of those things where they can, like, put it on the lectern on the little podium. They have Department of War. But internally, it's still totally Department of Defense. As far as I'm concerned, they're interchangeable. You know, it's not like the most important thing, but it's just interesting, I guess, to some people. With the support from the Oval Office of with the support from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, ODNI is overseeing government-wide efforts to expeditiously find, review, and identify, declassify, and publicly release unresolved UAP-related records and historical documents in the federal government's possession. And that's that folder full of a ton of, portable document files, PDF files that we have. God, I'm afraid to say that word now because people fucking use it in place of fucking... Anyway. What a shame. Anyway. Blah, blah, blah. Existing only on paper, spanning many decades. Okay, so they had to scan a lot of paper for the paper portion of this. Given the scope of this task, the Department of War will be releasing new materials on a rolling basis. So Cruz, good point there. So that's why I'm reading this, is because So Cruz asked, is this the first info dump still? Spanning many decades, given the scope, blah, 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 new materials on a rolling basis as they are discovered and declassified, with tranches posted every few weeks. The materials archived here are unresolved cases, meaning the government is unable to make a definitive determination of the nature of the observed phenomena. This can occur for a variety of reasons, including lack of sufficient data, and the Department of War welcomes the application of private sector analysis. Gosh, it's gonna be a little tricky to analyze. Like the numbers that are redacted. Like I can understand redacting call signs, but knowing how fast the plane is going might be helpful. Now that said, there is a good reason to redact that information too, because you don't necessarily want our adversaries getting the opportunity to take notes on what capabilities a given craft has under various conditions. But for things that I guess it would be more time consuming to figure out what can be redacted and not. So I guess they just go for redact everything instead of wasting time figuring out what to redact. But, it would help in the analysis for the private sector analysis to have that information. Department of War will continue to conduct separate reporting on resolved UAP cases as mandated by the statute. Under this administration, we will pursue the truth and share our findings with the American people, except that time we had drones at the beginning of the year. Who remembers the drones at the end of last year and the beginning of this year? Huh? You guys remember that shit? It was at the end of 2025. Drones were just showing up in random places, doing random shit. And a couple of the videos, we did a whole episode about it, and the ones that were most interesting to me, like I tried enhancing some of the videos, and the problem was that nobody knows how to fucking operate a camera, apparently. So I spent like the better part of that stream showing people how to get into the settings on your camera so that you could turn your camera to, record in 4K or to record at 60 frames a second. Because, like, I don't want a 24 frame per second 1080p video of a drone or a UFO or whatever it is. I need a fucking proper, like, if your phone could do 120 frames per second without sacrificing exposure, I want that fucking version. More frames per second, the more likely I can get a good screenshot, or I can upscale it, I can enhance it, you could do slow motion to it. But you try doing slow motion to a video that was recorded at 24 frames per second, you're not going to get very far. And anything that artificially interpolates the frames might be fun to do just out of curiosity to see what the result will be. Maybe you'll eke out a little more relevant detail, useful detail. But, that's artificial enhancement now. Now you're just adding frames and using, analysis of the frames that you do have, what few frames you have, to get a result out of that. And I might just pull up that episode to show you guys what I'm talking about there. Oh my god, Metatron. Or the Star of David. Understood, noble ones. Ah, yeah. Okay, so let me do my Metatron voice first. Hello, noble ones. Huh? I think I sound like Metatron. And as for President Trump, gotta sound angrier and more spiteful. Well, he wasn't. It's not a very spiteful message. It's not like he said, like, the lazy Biden administration did not release these documents. And something, you're very nasty. I love when he's talking to the press and he literally just tells, like, a bitch reporter, if they're being a bitch. They're not always bitches. But sometimes you get a reporter who's kind of being a pain in the ass, or impolite, or just disrespectful. And he'll just be like, you're very nasty. Or he's just like a troll. He'll be like, a question from fake news CNN. Or some crazy shit like that. He's all over the place sometimes, man. Like, that's sort of like, I don't know. I'm not even getting into that right now. I heard there will be at least 3 dumps, and the second one is supposed to have some really interesting stuff. Thanks, So Cruise 119. That's good to know. So there will be 2 subsequent info dumps, and the third one supposedly will have the good stuff in it. That's good, because I want to know what this is, man. I see a blimp here. Is that a blimp? What is that? Do I even have that one? Or is that, what is that? Actual photo with, this is from the PDF documents. Actual site photo of FBI lab rendered graphic overlay depicting corroborating witness reports. Okay, so they took a picture of the site and they overlaid a digital graphic or sketch or something. Reports from September 2023 of an apparent ellipsoid bronze metallic object materializing out of bright light in the sky, 130 to 195 feet in length, and disappearing instantaneously. Oh, it's like Battlestar. Someone did the Adama maneuver. That's what happened there. Oh my God. I remember Elon Musk talking about drone wars coming soon. I mean, we kind of already do that. See, that's more accurate. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I did a good job there. I appreciate that. Still redacted. Which part's redacted? Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah. That's, so makes analysis a little tricky. Maybe people from the private sector could analyze it and then say, write a letter to the Department of War. Hey, I analyzed this. This is what I was able to figure out. Like, if you write a letter to the Department of War and you say, this is what I was able to figure out, but the following pieces of information are missing from this, and if I could know the speed or the altitude of the observation, something like that, I can make a better, analysis. Maybe they'll give that information. Maybe they'll say, okay, on this one case, you give them the case number or the video number, you say, this is what I was able to figure out. This is what I'm missing in order to get more details. So if anybody interested in doing that citizen research, yeah, I would implore you to consider doing it that way. Cough, Photoshop, cough. It literally says Photoshop. Or it doesn't, I'm sorry, figuratively. I mean, it does say lab rendered. Yeah, Photoshop, 100% Photoshop. But question is, corroborating eyewitness reports. Which, of course, that's all hearsay. I get that part. Archival imagery from the Apollo 17 mission to the moon. The yellow box contains an enlarged area of the original photo with 3 lights. There are 3 lights. Wait, was there 4 lights? The Star Trek episode when Captain Picard's like being told there's 4 lights, and he's like, or he's being told there's 3 lights, and he knows there's 4 lights. Ah, crap, I forgot. Or it's one where Picard was like being, imprisoned by some Cardassian guy, and basically the guy was trying to interrogate him. So what he would do is he would show him like 3 lights on the wall, and then he would tell Picard there are 4 lights. And if Picard would just simply answer that he sees 4 lights, he would get food. But because Picard was like, no, I only see 3 lights, he wouldn't. Now people would say, why not just lie to the guy and say I see 4 lights and get your fucking food? And that was the thing. The trick is it's sort of like a way of opening you up, basically, for that interrogation. That's sort of like, it's an interesting tactic that apparently is known to work to some extent. So here we go. Hey, Reggie, I got a picture here. My friend says it looks like the Metatron. like the actual biblical Metatron. I don't know what it is, but I did notice something. As that object that looks like a star is moving around in the video, it has a trail behind it, and so you may be able to see it in the despite the low contrast, a white trail. It sort of looks like a sideways S curve. That's basically something that looks like it's coming from behind that object or in front. So either the object is being viewed from behind or in front. Now, I thought that maybe it's an inverted color, like a negative. So the parts that are black are actually white, and the parts that are white are actually black. And I thought that maybe the spike shape would be more like the shape of a vein or wings on a missile, for example. So that's my speculation so far. You got any thoughts, Reggie? Give me some expert analysis here, my friend. So let's see what Reggie thinks about that one. In the meantime, I'm going to pull up that old episode of the Monday Show. Yes, RS218 is playing Yakuza. No, he's playing Final Fantasy right now. It looked like Yakuza. Oh my God! Yeah. Hey. Does anybody? I forgot to turn off this graphic. This is terrible. Tell me honestly. I feel bad for the quartering, but I had to make this picture. I feel bad for the guy, so I'm not trying to make fun of the guy. I don't hate the guy. I thought he's an okay guy. I respect that he's just doing his thing. But I made this Jabba the Hutt graphic because I had to. And if I could have quartering on my show, I would humbly ask him to have a sense of humor about it. And I mean, he could be mad, but I wouldn't show it for the whole show. But if I was in his shoes, I would have a sense of humor about this. I would like to think I would have a sense of humor about this. So, yeah, that's what happens when you combine his face with a picture of Jabba the Hutt. It even has audio.
Of my hand, I command your attention. Now, entertain me with your tales of defeat. Greetings, puny humans. I am the mighty overlord of this realm. Behold my luxurious throne and treasures. With a wave of my hand, I command your attention. Now, entertain me with your tales of defeat.
I'm semi-proud of it. So let's get Reggie's analysis in a second. Let me find the old Monday show while I'm at it. And your question was, oh yeah, let's get Reggie's answer too. So your question was, how did that get triggered? What triggered? Oh, that I had that in I just it was in the corner the whole time when I switched to that scene in OBS. And I just resized it manually just to show you guys, just for kicks, share a little laughter, I guess. I mean, I don't want to laugh at the guy's expense. I just think the idea of combining a person with Jabba the Hutt is hilarious. Now, as for the quartering, I think he just, kind of lost it because apparently his wife was, either seeing another dude or cucked him or something. I don't know. That's the terminology people use. But bottom line is, I could see where if you have, your wife that you committed to fucking going and, like cheating on you or otherwise seeing someone else or deciding to separate, that is something that would push someone, especially if they're already in the middle of having conflict online. And I would think the road forward for him would be just, apologize for what he did wrong, take ownership. Don't apologize for things he doesn't have to apologize for, although that could be subjective. And just explain, look, man, I was in the middle of a rough time. Can't really talk about my wife being a bitch right now, but she's a bitch. And I apologize to this person, that person, that person. I shouldn't have reported you guys to the platform. I was coming from a really bad place. I'm going to take a break for a week. Well, I don't even know if you can take a break for a week, because I understand that when you are already a high traffic content creator, that, taking a week or two off could be a significant, hit to your, whatever you call it, your numbers and your revenue. So there's that. But I mean, that's my thoughts about that situation, though. If you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? Yeah, why not? Laugh at yourself, laugh at other people, then it's okay to laugh at other people, kind of. I always make jokes about myself. Elle makes jokes about me. At times she made fun of my eye. Well, she didn't make fun of it. She just pointed out that my eye does this. So sometimes what I'm doing is, like, I try to look into the camera like this. But I have this, when I want to look at this screen, my other eye can do this. and I can look at the other screen while looking at the camera, but it doesn't look right, so I try to like look at the camera. So let's see what we got here. Reggie, oh, he's generating the speech right now. Was the contrail from a rocket or missile they shot at? Yeah. So in this one here, that's the thing. If it was a UAP or UFO, they would know.
But the imaging system itself is doing a tremendous amount of the visual storytelling here.
Reggie, are you doing that thing again? We don't finish the speech.
All right, conductor's field analysis. First thing, that star shape is almost certainly not the literal shape of the object itself. You get blooming, diffraction spikes, sensor saturation, sharpening artifacts, tracking instability, and optical weirdness from the imaging chain, especially with military flare systems. A tiny bright source can turn into a geometric monster depending on zoom level, focus, stabilization, and processing. Your instinct about inversion is reasonable. A lot of these systems run white-hot or black-hot thermal modes, where hot objects appear dark in one mode and bright in another. So yes, what looks black could actually correspond to a hotter or brighter source depending on the polarity setting. The wings or cross shape could come from several things. Conventional object now, the curved trail is the interesting part. I do see what you mean. It looks almost like a faint wake or smoke trail curling off to the side. But that does not automatically mean propulsion. Atmospheric distortion, image persistence stabilization, smearing contrast enhancement, the tracking camera moving independently of the target exhaust plume visibility in infrared cloud layers or temperature gradients. If this were a missile or aircraft viewed in IR, the exhaust plume could absolutely produce that kind of curving signature, especially if wind shear is involved at altitude. A missile maneuvering or an aircraft banking can leave weird-looking thermal traces. The Metatron interpretation is human pattern recognition doing what human brains do best. We see meaningful geometry in noisy data. Same reason people see faces on Mars, animals in clouds, or divine imagery in toast. Once somebody says, biblical angel, the brain starts locking onto symmetry and symbolism. The most grounded interpretation from this single frame is probably a bright thermal target viewed through a military IR targeting system with optical sensor artifacts, or tracking smear creating the curved trail. Still interesting footage. But the imaging system itself is doing a tremendous amount of the visual storytelling here.
And that's the key thing, is that there's a lot of there's a bit of processing that sometimes goes on. It may not be complicated processing, and that's also another thing. Simple processing could, produce certain types of artifacts that we try to interpret, but without the full details of what mode the camera is. Oh, what's that? So check this out. This little black thing here. It looks almost like a parasol, like those parachutes that look like a wing. I don't know what that is, to be honest, but it may not be relevant to the observation per se, but it's relevant because it's piquing my curiosity. In fact, it looks like, could this be a ground camera? Maybe it's a ground camera. I don't know. But I feel like if like a Patriot air defense system shot a missile and had a picture of it, I don't know if they have cameras on those. Hey Google, do Patriot air defense systems have cameras on them? I wasn't talking to you, Google. Google said, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Not movie light visible, the M104 Patriot primarily relies on powerful phased array radar systems for detection. That said, modern defense air systems also include electro-optical or infrared support systems somewhere in the network, especially for identification, backup tracking, or countering jamming environments. Patriot itself is radar-centric, but associated systems upgrades or integrated defense networks can involve IR. My friend didn't ask. I'll show you what Reggie said for the rest of that. In the meantime, I'm going to go look up the drones episode. I think I named the stream Attack of the Drones. I did. I literally named it Attack of the Drones. Oh, man, what a treat. Ah, crap. I deleted the words that Reggie said. All right. Regenerate.
So if your friend is asking, Could a Patriot battery record video or thermal imagery of a target? The answer is broadly yes, in some form, depending on the exact configuration and supporting assets. But if the question is, does the Patriot launcher itself have a little GoPro pointed at the sky? Then no, not really.
And Reggie continues. All right, Reggie.
And this loops back to your UFO discussion earlier. Some footage associated with military tracking systems may come from aircraft flare pods, ear targeting systems, EO sensors, or networked surveillance assets, not necessarily from the missile battery itself. End of line.
Oh, this time I was asking Reggie, not a friend, but thank you for addressing that. So in this one here, I think we see it in, let's see if we get, I'm honestly not sure. I don't see anything here. This is just a compass pointer, I think. Or maybe it's pointing at that feature? I don't know. Or is it out of frame? Well, I don't see anything here, so we're going to skip ahead. All right. Another tracking camera, probably gun camera maybe, and it's that white object there. UI, unidentified small thermal signature. So this time they're clearly indicating it's a thermal signature, which is helpful for our purposes. Oh, we're gonna do a stream about Dan Simmons, the author, soon. I found out he died back in February. He wrote a number of really well written books, but a lot of people's favorite is Hyperion. I thought about the guy because the word UI, ultimate intelligence, a future AI trying to manipulate across the timeline. So this is another a lot of white dots, basically, right? You know, it's like, can't say I'm very enthusiastic about the white dots, if I'm being absolutely honest, but this is what we have so far. So it's what we get to look at, guys. I would love to, go over more, not so much esoteric UFO reports, but the ones that, maybe like someone somewhat reputable, has a witness testimony on. I've certainly seen videos where people were interviewed and they seen various things and they talk about it. I remember one was these people in England. They saw something that looked like an owl without its clothes on, and the explanation was that it was an owl without its feathers, and that baby owls tend to look a certain way, but the size was the issue, and people said that the thing emitted a strong ammonia smell, and that a couple of people involved had to be hospitalized over it. So that was a really interesting part, which actually makes me think, if you were in England and you saw something that resembled a baby owl or an owl, but a grown owl without clothing, without feathers, and it had a strong ammonia smell, maybe it was an owl that got exposed to a chemical, lost its feathers, and at that point, people not being familiar would draw a picture or describe it to a sketch artist, and it would come up looking very alien with those big eyes and, very peculiar. Like, we should definitely, in fact, we didn't even look at Operation Fishbowl. We're going to look at that in a second, but look at this shit right here. Someone has baby owls in their attic. Look at that shit. So imagine if you saw something like this, but larger, and it smelled like chemicals. It could explain the weird UFO report. Also, I love how they look like they have arms. I remember all those drones showing up around the country. Yes, and we're gonna take a look at that. So I do want to touch on Operation Fishbowl at some point. A lot of the flat earthers like to run with this and claim that they tried to nuke the firmament, which is the dome that they claim encompasses the the actual atmosphere. There's a lot of flat earthers, they don't understand how gradients work. They think that you can't have a vacuum next to air, but what they don't understand is that it's not like you have full air pressure and then space. It's more like a lot of them, like, they can't believe in gravity, because if they believe in gravity, it would take away a lot of their counter arguments. So they often will be incredulous about gravity. But the gist of it is, it's like when you have oil on water. You put some olive oil into a container of water, the oil always floats to the surface. The water is always at the bottom. And if you were to get different types of liquid that had varying densities and they didn't all mix evenly, you would have, and they were all colored. Let's say you use dye to color each different type of liquid. You would actually have gradients in let's see here, gradient color dyed liquid. Let's see if we can get an example of that. Okay, this is all about dyeing things. I don't want to see dyes. I want to see liquids. Oh my god. Okay, so liquid of different density. There we go. Perfect example. Honey, corn syrup, oil, alcohol. And then the nail, I'm going to guess, is going to float on top of the honey. Or not. Oh, wait, what is that? That looks interesting. So basically, like in the atmosphere of the Earth, you release helium at sea level. The helium is not going to stay at sea level. It's going to rise. Hydrogen, same concept, right? And so you'll have your lighter gases at higher altitudes. But on top of that, the gases at higher altitude are going to be pressing down on the gases at lower altitudes. So the honey itself may be dense, but once you add these other things on top of the honey, they're going to increase the pressure. The column of pressure, in the region where the honey is going to be of higher pressure. And so that's essentially how we keep our atmosphere. Now, by the time you're at the edge of space and you're in what we do officially call space, the atmosphere is measured in parts per million. And this is why even the moon has an atmosphere that is very thin. Pluto has a tenuous atmosphere where, depending on the time of the year, the atmosphere will be more or less dense, or will exist or not exist, depending on the temperature during that part of the year. Either the atmosphere will freeze, or it'll turn back into a very minimal amount of low pressure gas. So these are examples of how you can have gas, quote unquote, next to a vacuum. Because it's really more like the gas is residing in a vacuum, but I digress. We should pop in the space engine. I want to show you guys a new planet. I might squeeze in some planetarian in a little while too. Gotta see how long is planetarian? Does anyone know? Do you know, Game Gear Goddess? Hey, what's up, Marcus Felix? Good to see you, man. He's got the robot, the cat, and the robot. Oh yeah, I don't have a cat anymore, luckily. I mean, the cat's not in the house. They left like a couple weeks ago, and they sometimes show up in the backyard. They don't show up as often. I used to leave them food, but I didn't want them to get too dependent on me. But I did leave them food. The other day, a cat was right outside, and I go to check my telescope. As I'm coming back into the house, the cat came back into the screen room. Usually the cat leaves the screen room when I go to my telescope. But when I was coming back from the telescope, the cat was already in the screen room. So as I'm walking past the cat, another cat jumps out of my house, a black cat. So there's like a black and gray cat that was in my kitchen for like 2 minutes while I was checking on my telescope. And it's like, great, I just want one cat. I don't even know which cat is the right cat. I don't even know which cat was like hiding in my dining room for like a week. Okay? I wanted to make that cat my family member and shit, you know? But now there's 2 cats. I can't have 2 cats. I can only pick one. So I gotta play favorites if any of them are gonna be adopted. But no, they live outside. It might be someone else's cat, because that tends to happen. Sometimes cats like to they have two families, and they go to one family, get like a meal, and then they go back to their home and they eat, and then they go back out and they have a third family. Cats are hilarious, I love them. They're great. My opinion: most flat earthers are disenfranchised Christians looking for a new ideological home outside of the church. Sometimes that is true. Some of them are like a little bit of both. Like, not many Christians are okay with the whole science thing. Although you'll hear varying levels of unscientific thought from Christians. Like I have a friend who argues that dinosaurs existed in the past because they have cave paintings with dragons on them, and so that's evidence that those are the dinosaurs or something like that. And it's like, maybe the cave paintings represent something they saw in nature. Maybe it represents mythology. I don't even know what example he was referring to be honest. But it's like, I understand that not everyone trusts the scientific community, and depending on what discipline we're talking about. But there's certain things you can independently. Here we are. Giant humans are real. Giants are an interesting one because, like, the same crowd who's into giants are also into the whole Bigfoot thing. And I'm actually one of those weirdos who kind of believes in Bigfoot. I want to believe in Bigfoot, but at the same time, like, when I think about it logically, I can make a good case for it. I can make a decent case for Bigfoot. I can also make a case against Bigfoot. And essentially, it's like all this time, the amount of the earth that humanity covers, how is a species going to be hiding from us for all that time? Like, surely sooner or later, a camera on someone's doorstep would pick up, a Ring doorbell camera would pick up Bigfoot sooner or later, right? But essentially, the idea of Bigfoot is you have all these cultures around the world. They all have different mythologies that are very similar when it comes to these big primate-like creatures of varying types. And whether it be Sasquatch from the Native Americans or the Alma in Eastern Europe, some stories too. Although I don't know if you can corroborate the story about the Alma. What the hell was the name of that Alma? It had a cute name. Like, it supposedly lived in a village, and it's a long story. That's a whole other topic. But the giants, what a lot of people would say is that the giants, reason we don't see them is because every time that people found giants, the Smithsonian showed up and took them away and hid them from us. And on one angle, it's like, I can kind of buy it, and then on the other angle, it's like it's an easy hand wave explanation, But it's one of those like ones where I hate when people say you can't prove a negative, but it's like, well, I can't prove a negative, and I certainly can't prove a positive. There's no positive to be shown. But if you find a giant, maybe document the shit out of it. Upload it 100 different places before you give it to anyone else to research, But it would be a good idea to get someone someone cool in mainstream science to kind of like at least document that they observe. I don't know. See, that's a tricky thing too, is people don't want to be, lose their careers or become, labeled for seeing some shit. In fact, I got one here for you guys. It's about the Venera probe. Venera probe Scorpion. So the guy who see, there's a lot of articles that say it's been proven false. Maybe it has been, but essentially in some of these videos, there was like I think like a dozen. Do we have Reggie? Reggie? Let's ask Reggie. Hey, Reggie, I got a random one for you. It's a little bit sidetracking here, but the Venera 9 probe on Venus took a number of pictures of the surface. Now, I know these were on a magnetic computer tape, and many of them are printouts that were captured from photographs that were shown on screen. My question to you is, what's a good website where I can look at these pictures, all of them, from Venera 9? I think it was Venera 9. My elementary science project. Which one? The UFOs or the drones? I'm working on a new game idea. I think it'll be fun. Ooh, another new game. Is that Coney is a good time. Is a good time. Littlefoot. Yeah, well, the Alma are like Littlefoot because the Alma are not tall like Bigfoot. In the Eastern European lore, where they're talked about. So there is something there to that saying of things. So I'm not going to have Reggie read out the hyperlinks, but I will have Reggie read out something here. Put Neil deGrasse Tyson on Skinwalker Ranch and see how fast he explains away all of it. Yeah, right. I mean, I would love to put Neil deGrasse Tyson in a compromising position to be forced to like form a real opinion there. Oh, we got some imagery here. Pretty decent imagery. So the speculation about the Venera imagery is that that's an annoying way to navigate a website. Let me put this in a pop-out tab so we can open these in new tabs. I want to cycle through them almost like a slideshow. Put it on this screen here. Let's pause the UFO video. See, what I want to do is I want to open these up in new tabs. I might have to do this again. Okay, so I'm going to get this link to open up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cycle through the images and we're going to see what changed in the images. Because that was the allegation in a pretty detailed video I saw where a person was like pretty reasonable about all of this, but they weren't terribly dismissive, but they were trying to be balanced, or at least that's what they were given the appearance of being. So since that guy didn't seem to have anything to gain other than, clicks, I'm going to give it a chance. So these are the panorama images, and some of them, actually, the originals will have these little bars in the middle of the images that are telemetry data. So, like, little blocks of black and white squares that included telemetry. So, whatever that is, temperature data, I don't know, but they kind of transmitted them together. Put Neil. Oh, yeah, I still got to play a video, Slim Him. So, and he's a moron. Sounds like a good game. Oh, we're talking about two things now, but yes. Could make all sorts of little pog arts for like collectible, upgradable monsters or something too. Oh, that'd be fun. You can make NFT tokens. Yo, Snow, you can make NFTs for your game. As long as you're not looking at close-ups of Uranus. So I'll show you Uranus. I'll show, not my anus. I'll show Uranus. I'm going to call it Gummy Bunge. Ooh, with properties of Bot Gummy and Bunge. Never played either of those. Guess I'll be finding out. So, let's see here. Some of these are different angles. So observe this piece right here. So some of them, they claim that these are parts of the probe. And you got to remember that Venus has a very high pressure atmosphere. It's almost more like a soupy liquid at that pressure. I mean, it's just high pressure carbon dioxide basically and acid rain. But you're dealing with very high atmospheric pressure. And so the wind can move things is basically my logic there. So this actually does look like a piece of of the probe. Now I know on one of the Venera missions, they have a lens cap that ejected off the front of the camera, and this instrument here measures the density of the soil. It's like a spring-loaded arm, and when it slams down on the ground, it determines the density of the soil. And on one of the missions, the lens cap popped out, and when the arm came out, it slammed into the lens cap. So now it's just measuring the density, or the what do you call it? Penetrability, whatever they call it, of the freaking lens cap, which is absolutely useless from a scientific point of view, but a little bit of a funny oops, accident. So I don't know what a scorpion is, but I'm sure we can find a video that highlights it. Now, here's one. If you look at the, one of these looks like it was taken at a wider angle. So you see this rock over here, and either it moved or it's just being distorted. Or we're looking at a completely different side of the probe. Or is this before the arm retracted or extended? That might be before the arm. Actually, here we are. I got it. So these little calibration triangles, if that's what they're for, they kind of give you an idea of what field of view you're dealing with. Because if you're a Russian researcher, you know how big the probe is. You know where the triangles are, how far apart they're spaced. And based on that information, you can kind of, figure out, despite the optical distortion, what, you're looking at how big the objects around it are. Did I accidentally close one of these tabs by accident? I might have closed the tab by accident. Is that definitely part of the probe? But the problem is we don't know what part that is that survived because everything else is like gone. Yep. The field of view must be zoomed in. Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like a wide angle lens. And some lenses are weird. They distort things more that are closer up than they do that are further away. And I can actually do 2 demonstrations of that. One of them involves Japanese art, oddly enough. Old Japanese art, like from the Heike era. So I lost the picture, I think. I mean, this looks like 2 different missions, to be honest, or 2 different sides of the probe. Here we are. This is the one I was talking about. So, looks like 2 different things. So let's see if we can find a scorpion. Okay, Venera surface panorama. The 1975 panorama from the Soviet Union's Venera probe includes the first image ever taken from the surface of another planet. That's just one image. Well, let's open up another tab. ESA, European Space Agency, Spatiale. The first images of the surface of Venus, and this one might show telemetry lines, maybe. CCCP. That's not really what that says. Ooh, we can download these. We can download a high-res JPEG. We're going to get the high-res JPEG and open it up right now. Okay, so this is a 100% zoom here, I think. Yeah. Now, how you get color on these depends. So I think I have a feeling how they do it. We can certainly ask Reggie. Okay, so this is interesting what Reggie's saying. So let's get Reggie's words on this. Let me read this real quick, though. So from 1975 to 1982, four of the Soviet Union's Venera probes captured our only images of Venus's surface. And there's another thing. Nobody has sent a follow-on mission. Russia was going to send another probe recently, but they didn't. And maybe you could say that's because of the war. Or it could just be other reasons. But you would think that, somebody would want to take pictures. Now that said, the probe that you would have to send to the surface would be heavy and hard. I mean, tough. But I think with our technology compared to Soviet technology of the era, we probably could have done it because this is not a high radiation environment. Soviet electronics could potentially do really well in radiation sometimes. Like it's weird. So during Chernobyl, they had these like bobcats basically, these little like bulldozers that were remotely controlled, and they were using them to move the graphite, the radioactive graphite from the roof of the building down into the pit that they were going to build a sarcophagus over, because you don't want to have radioactive graphite out in the open, really. And these drone bulldozers kept malfunctioning. So at one point, they wanted to send a camera inside, like where they have this thing called corium. So corium is like when you have a nuclear meltdown and the fuel mixes with the surrounding concrete to produce a sort of lava. So they have this thing called the elephant's foot. It's basically like a lump of concrete mixed with uranium or plutonium, and it's highly rated. I think it's still dangerous to touch today. I think if even now it might be dangerous, but at the time, standing too close to it would have been dangerous. So what they did was they made a hole in the wall. They stuck a remote control car. They put a camcorder on a stick, and then they put a camera on top of a remote control car. So even though a lot of electronics kept giving them problems, like I think they even had a robot built for this purpose. It was a like really cheap $14 remote control car that they bought at a market in Ukraine, somewhere in one of the big cities, that had really shitty basic electronics. I wouldn't call it shitty, but basic electronics and things that the radiation impacts microcircuits because you got very small lines, very small traces. And if you're using a simpler microcircuit that has larger traces, or you're not even using microcircuits, using simple electronics, they're going to be less susceptible to that sort of thing. And so it worked. They were able to drive the remote control car right up to the freaking corium. I think they even got like a little sample. I don't know if they did it that way or used another tool. But yeah, but Venus is not the place we got to worry about radiation. That thick atmosphere will absolutely protect you. Being in orbit of Venus might be another story, especially with the heat from the sun being worse because of the inverse square law. Like you're physically closer to the sun, so you're gonna be cooked a little bit more. But we have sent satellites in orbit of Venus. We've mapped Venus. That's why in Space Engine, for instance, we can see that. So let's get Reggie's words, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about.
And this loops back to your UFO discussion earlier. Some footage associated with military tracking systems may come from aircraft flare pods, ear targeting systems, EOS sensors, or networked surveillance assets, not necessarily from the missile battery itself. End of line. Ron, the gold standard site for this is probably Don Mitchell's archive and related Venus image collections. That's where a lot of the best restorations and reconstructed panoramas came from. The original Soviet data was messy, fragmented, and in some cases, literally recovered from old recordings and print sources. The two best starting points are Don Mitchell Mental Landscape Venus Archive ITTs, mentallandscape.com Catalog Venus, HTM. Tons of Venera material, technical notes, reconstructed panoramas, telemetry discussion, and mission-by-mission image collections. Probably closest to what you want if you want to nerd out properly. Mentallandscape Com 1. Collected together in one place, easier to browse casually. The Planetary Society 2 and specifically for Venera 9. Surface-Jet EPs, www.sa into a multimedia imagist. Reconstructed panoramas processed telemetry screen, captures restored scans, print reproductions, later digital reinterpretations, from raw Soviet data. The original camera systems were mechanical scan imagers, not modern frame cameras. They swept line by line across the scene. That contributes to the eerie look of the images. Mentallandscape, come on honestly, the fact that humanity photographed the surface of Venus in the 1970s at all is still one of the most absurdly underrated achievements of the space age. Those probes landed in conditions that would murder most modern electronics in minutes.
Reggie, would it be fair that the cameras were using 70s technology but scanned the surface of Venus in the 1980s? I mean, certainly at least one of the missions occurred in 1982, right? Not a big deal, just curious. Now, mechanically scanned images, also, any details on the mechanically scanned camera? Mechanically scanned, I gotta type this part. Cameras and how they produced color. And was it like LRGB imaging on my telescope? There we go. Get Reggie's answer. But now, you only see Venus's thick atmosphere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the atmosphere. We're going to turn off the clouds. We're going to turn off the atmosphere. So this was all mapped using radar, synthetic aperture radar. I think in the 90s, if I remember correctly, maybe early 2000s. So let's see what we can see here. And this is a very dynamic surface, in my opinion. Oops. You can even see like some lines on the surface. Maybe we could just kind of look at it. I'd say we look at it medium altitude or higher altitude. Because then we get like the best resolution here. That's an obviously yin yang symbol. That's an obvious yin yang symbol there. I can't pronounce yin yang. But it's not the kind of planet you're gonna find a lot of craters on. I mean, you could find craters. There's not gonna be any vegetation growing over the craters. I don't think that it's devoid of craters, but we're not gonna necessarily. The asteroids that make it to the surface have to be pretty substantial, because the atmosphere will, basically destroy those meteorites before they hit the surface. But you can see these striations. It kind of reminds me of Europa or Io. Callisto. Wait, I always mix up the frickin' Jovian moons. The one with the ice shell around it. And it looks like a wind-swept plain. I wonder if that's got a topographical... It looks a bit like a canyon. I think we should go explore that. I mean, it's got some topography here. Some topography there. Now remember, Venus is not a dead rock. So we've turned off the atmosphere and clouds because we want to see through it, but this is what it looks like with an atmosphere at the surface. Actually, that's more like it. Oops, I made it fly across the screen. Let's turn off the atmosphere. We'll leave the clouds on for now. It's got a pretty even cloud layer. It's got very... Terrain almost looks angular. It was a Nintendo Vault. Gotta get back to bed. Have a great rest of the stream. Thanks, man. You have a great rest or a great sleep cycle. It looks like scuffed leather. What about series? Let's take. Hey, good night, yo, Tommy. Good show before, man. He showed a freaking. There was a turtle. Well, there was a Odie from Garfield who had a turtle shell on its head. But good times. If I ever build a computer case out of the Ghostbuster Firehouse, he's the first or second person I'm telling, because I think he would feature that on his show. Yeah, so I have a Ghostbuster Firehouse. It's not in the best condition, but I think I might one day make it into a computer case. Put LEDs on Ecto 1, like when the hard drive activity is blinking. Oh, crap. No. Why does it do that? Why does it go fast like that? Let's go back. I want to go back. I want to go to that crater. Yes, you crater. I want to see this crater. Oh shit! Those clouds really get in the way. Ah, so sometimes it's like you gotta zoom out because that's gonna be like the best picture you get. Anything more than a certain level of zoom, you're seeing pixels. So if you really want to see the detail, the features in the most realistic detail, sometimes getting too close to them is going to compromise that. Now, I do want to play a video that Slim Nim sent earlier in the stream, so let's find that video because he said that this guy is a clown trying to do bench press. That is a fucking clown.
So the text on the screen said if your boyfriend can't bench 200, then that's your girlfriend, and then you didn't bench 200. So does that mean you're somebody's girlfriend? I'm just kidding. I know you're not in a relationship. But hey, at least you got the poses right.
Yeah, what is he even doing? Is that like when you do steroids but you still can't lift? Like, what is that? It's a bird. It's a balloon. It's a balloon. What is that? I know what that is. I know what that is. Look, that's all it is. It's just the next step logo. That's Steve Jobs' company when he left Apple for a little while. That's what it was. That was the next step logo for sure. Okay, trust me, I'm an expert. I watched like a video where Steve Jobs talked about riding a bike. He said, a bird can fly. Let's see here. Steve Jobs bird crane bicycle. Let me see if we can find this one. Nah, I'm not going to find that video right now. So there's a video where he's like, a bird is the most efficient thing. It uses this many kilojoules per mile. Oh, wait, maybe this is the video.
The thing I really separates us. I think one of the things that really separates us from the high primates is that we're tool builders. And I read a study that measured the efficiency of locomotion for various species on the planet. The condor used the least energy to move a kilometer. And humans came in with a rather unimpressive showing about a third of the way down the list. It was not too proud of a showing for the crown of creation. So that didn't look so good, but then somebody at Scientific American had the insight to test the efficiency of locomotion for a man on a bicycle. And a man on a bicycle, or a human on a bicycle, blew the condor away, completely off the top of the charts. And that's what a computer is to me. What a computer is to me is, it's the most remarkable tool that we've ever come up with. And it's the equivalent of a bicycle for our minds.
Steve Jobs and I were hacking Twisted Pair at about the same time. What the heck is Twisted Pair? Is that a band or a game? It can't be the game that Steve Jobs was hacking. But I don't want to miss the Monday show. Looks like the comedian. Oh, I should get a nap before my live stream in 3 hours. You got a live stream in 3 hours? Are you gonna be on L show at 6 a.m.? You're doing a show at 6 a.m.? You're doing a show at 7 a.m.? Well, I won't. It's already 3:28. I'll be wrapping up soon anyway. But don't wait for me because I could get really down a rabbit hole here. I think we covered a lot of ground here. Real quick, Share my drone episode, guys. All Army guys are experts on everything. Jokes aside, though, an honest Army guy will indicate that they are. Military guy, I don't know if he's Army or not, will indicate if cover some interesting things back in the day. This is the one that is probably a passenger jet or something like that, because I don't know, it's got the right shape, kind of. Remember, this is one of those inverted examples, but let's see. Anything from a alien that
nicknamed Gimbal,
is
Go
a ship
Fast
with a
and
sand
Fall,
down
and they
clown.
differ from a lot of prior UFO footage
Sand
in that
down
it's
clown.
U.S. Navy footage, so it's generally considered higher quality and more credible in terms of both authenticity and various commentary and analysis given in and around them. For those of you watching rather than listening,
Confess,
you have
DJ
been seeing
Ronnie
the
G,
Navy
they are your
footage on the screen
drones.
as I talked, and seen some peculiar stuff. It
Oh, you stream
can
on
seem
Twitch
even
every
more
day.
peculiar
I would
with the
tune into that.
observations of
Maybe
folks
not at 6
watching the
a.m.,
event
but I would
happening
try.
on the recordings, and in the
If I'm up,
backdrop
I'll
of some of
tune
the
in.
other
That's the
reported
tracking
incidents at
device.
the time.
What's your name on
However,
Twitch?
we can get some
Drop a link.
confusion,
That little
as for
box
instance, one of the
highlighting
videos
it,
was shot shortly after
and then go to
another
bed.
pilot had seen something weird in that area, and often in discussion, the events of that eyewitness account get confused with the video.
Quit lying to the people. In fact, your drone, the HB-132 or Herbie, keeps texting me about what you are doing. Incoming jump signature designations unknown. I miss being able to put the chat on the screen like this, but it was just a big pain in the ass because to get the chat to show up on the screen like this, I had to activate a browser plugin every freaking time. And if I forgot to turn off that browser plugin and I was using a chat like on a random day, the chat would come up big. So for a while, I would just not use Chrome whenever I go to YouTube, which really I use Firefox mostly because of the pop-out window feature. So maybe I'll go back to using that. Also, this is cropping the image because of the chat. So we're gonna close the chat out. There we go. It's a lines are encircling the object or surrounding it, and the little dot in the middle over there, that is the object in question. So where my mouse pointer is, basically it makes the object look like it's moving fast because of the angles. Oh, my PDA. I misplaced it. I can't find my PDA. I need to find it. I got my colored PDA, but I don't have my black and white PDA. I'm really pissed about that. Not pissed, but, you know, hope I find it. All I can see is a PDA with Punk Waddle on it. But see that I was using DaVinci editing software to help manipulate the video a little bit. I think oh yeah, it's the other PDA that I misplaced, but I don't really care about it as much. But it's a good one. It's a solid device. I think they're probably on the floor in front of my desk. Sweet spot would be 1080p, full HD. See, this is me going over how to use the camera on the phone because I was like, I was getting pissed off that every video I found just wasn't done at anything other than 24 frames a second. I was like, come on. Freaking like, pick a more optimal setting. And then I went over how to do manual exposure and yada, yada, yada. You know, how you can like pretty much use the camera in a manual mode like you would on an old SLR. Like you can see like ISO, shutter speed. I'm going to have to look for Snow on Twitch. If I don't get a link, I'm going to have to go try to guess. Like, I'm going to have to type in Snow. I'm going to type Snow Shepherd. I'm going to type Alicia until I find her. Background with some clouds. Okay, like this is not the frame rate and cutting it in half. Maybe I'll find out if this looks better. But right now, little gimmick right there. And Katamari. Yo, Slim Him, I got the Katamari wallpaper there. As the king of the universe. I had this because I had a pretty decent screen for old PDA, so I was like, I'm gonna use Katamari because it's just nice, colorful cartoon color there, you know. Camera. Learn to use manual focus. Learn to use manual exposure. Practice. Understand it. Or maybe not understand it, but just like, you know, do the basics. You know what I mean? Like you can't count on autofocus is my point. Yeah. And it's not that I'm trying to be, it's not about being a photography purist. It's that you literally can't count on autofocus on a smartphone because it's designed to get an object like this, you know, me. Because if I'm out of focus, this camera could detect that the contrast between this detail right here is not sharp. It's going to be blurry. But when it's auto focusing, the goal of the camera is that it's going to say that, oh, look, I found a color white next to a stark change in brightness, a difference in contrast between this and this. And that's what, is going to be, essentially the basis of an autofocus measurement, so to speak. And that just does not work. That method of contrast detection does not work on aerial objects against a flat sky or a dark sky. So that's sort of, I'm just kind of just conveying that, like, in the event that, and yeah, so that's what I was conveying. Thank you, Snow, for dropping a link. I'm going to bookmark you right now. And this Minecraft stream was 2 days ago.
I have an entire semester's worth of...
And she has an entire semester's worth of flowers, that lady in the advertisement. So I think I got one more, well, yeah, I got one more thing, two more things. So, one, we're going to turn the atmosphere and clouds back on Venus. Not really much to see there except for, what appears to be a dead world, but oh yeah, I was supposed to get the scorpion picture. Let me get the Venera scorpion. There's got to be like a good. Here we go. High strangeness. So that's the scorpion right there. And where is it in the original picture? I think it's over here. But I think the thing that was the claim was that it wasn't there in one picture and it was there in another picture and vice versa. So the problem is that because these are, now the thing is that the person who wrote the original report had access to the original images. So maybe they saw a detail that we're not seeing here. Let me see if we can figure out what we're looking at. I think that's the scorpion right there. Yeah, that's it. I think that's the shape, that little long slivery thing. And so it's not here in one picture. So here's the point of reference, right? We got this area right over. I mean, they look completely different too. That's the other problem. It's very hard to judge. It's difficult to judge. Let's see what the Reddit comments say, because Reddit is very reputable. Maybe the object varies extremely from the material surrounding it. It might be obviously foreign or appearing so at least. Maybe it's discolored or moved. Okay, so there's like a lot of maybes. Did Reggie tell me how the scanned cameras work? Because I want to know. I want to know how scanned cameras work. Go, Reggie. Oh, you got to generate your speech? Okay, I'll let you generate your speech. Reginald is processing. In the meantime, let's go take a look at series. So, Marcus Felix mentioned a dwarf planet called Ceres, and you can see it looks a lot like the moon. This version of it has some blue on it. You can see here, almost like a cobalt color. And we got very good detail. Like, cool thing about a space engine is you can kind of get down like this and take a picture. So one of the things I like to do is, and you see there's some color fringing from whatever process they use to capture the color here. So what I like to do is this. I like to find like a nice vantage point, like one of these areas here. And get like a nice overview like that. And then we press something like Control Shift F12 or F9. I always forget. It's like a hotkey for this. There it is, that one. So this is the high resolution camera utility. So what I'll usually do is I'll pick a number like so there we go. We got a nice framed image. Take a picture. Oh, we should actually increase the landscape level of detail. So you can actually see that depending on the distance of a feature, it can use a higher quality or lower quality texture. So it takes more computation, but now you can see it's kind of giving you a better quality image. So the idea is that we get a very high resolution still image that I can use in thumbnails and other stuff, like a background of Reggie's in a movie or some cool shit like that. And you could do similar stuff with video, but not quite to this level of detail. But the idea is that you delay your processing. You know, you're not getting real-time instant gratification, so it's less resource intensive when you're moving through the image, when you're looking at it in real time. But you can still get a better image that you can use in material if you don't need the pan. If you just need a still image, this is how you get that. And then this one here makes everything transparent. So sometimes what you do is you can make the background transparent, or you can eliminate the stars, so you're only getting the surface features in a blank background that you can use in Photoshop. Because by having transparency enabled, you don't have to use the use the magic wand or any of those tools to, isolate elements from the foreground and background. So sometimes I'll take 2 or 3 images with slightly different settings. So in this case, what I would do is I would actually turn off the stars, galaxy, and even the sun, maybe. Now, actually, you can't hide the planets, right? Because it's going to be Earth in this view. But we could delete view. We could Photoshop Earth out, no problem. Alicia, go to bed now. And what's up, Orc? Okay, this is the last. Damn it, I didn't turn on transparency. I think I'll just not redo this image right now. Or did I save transparency in the last picture? Yo, Reddit scares me. I mean, my Plasma TV subreddit was kind of not stolen, because the person who took it over probably genuinely noticed that there was spam on there, supposedly. So that's why they took it over, and I didn't see the message about that. But I knew that if I didn't check that subreddit every 90 days, that eventually it would leave my control. I guess as long as people are happily posting there, it doesn't really matter who runs the subreddit or who moderates it. If they're willing to do the legwork, my basic rule was just like, don't post any dumb shit that's not related to the topic, or don't be a dick. Be nice to people. And I guess if spammers were there, well, yeah, that also violates the rules. I mean, I did get some kind of message. I know, I think I simply got a message told me I was not mod anymore. I was like, how about a message like, hey, buddy, we know there's a lot of spam here, so I'm going to reach out. I don't know. I mean, like, I can see where some people would turn it into a power struggle, and why someone wouldn't want to notify the moderator of that Reddit, of that subreddit, because they would then make a big thing about preventing it. But I mean, what's the big deal? I don't know. Either way, as long as they're doing a good job. Ooh, this would be a good picture. I'm not going to do this right now, but that'd be a good picture. So let me show you the new dwarf planet real quick. So, I mean, I think if I ever want to post to that subreddit, I can still post to it. I don't have to be moderator, so it doesn't really matter. If anything, it's probably easier now. And I don't care enough about it to start another subreddit on the same topic. So I want you guys to observe there's a new object here. So, wait, is this upside down? This is upside down, isn't it? Okay, there we go. Now we're right. I mean, there's no upside down, but you know what I mean. So we've been over almost all of these except for one. Quora. And I'm sure we get Reggie to talk about Quora. Am I spelling that right? Q-U-A-O-A-R. Q-U-A-O-A-R. In the meantime, tell me about those cameras, Reggie.
Yes, that's fair. The Venera program spans multiple generations, so you had late 70s engineering evolving into early 80s missions. Venera program, the famous color surface images, came from Venera 13 and Venera 14 in 19...
How long was I showing you guys Reddit? How long was I showing you guys Reddit? Shit, fuck. I was taking pictures of stuff you couldn't see, that's what. Hey, what's up, Orc? So, damn, I was showing some stuff there. So, okay, let's get back to the Planet series real quick. We're not going to repeat everything I did, but I'll show you what I was doing. So, that entire time that you guys were looking at frickin' Reddit, I was on the Planet series doing this. I went down to this crater, right? And I'll show you one more time. I'm actually going to get a good angle. And this is what I did. I would do Shift F11, set PNG, set my landscape level of detail to high, and do this. And it would basically give us a high resolution screenshot with maximum detail. And then I would set the transparency like that. So yeah, I don't know how long I was showing the wrong screen, guys, but this is what I was doing for a good few minutes just now. And I took a ton of pictures using this method, basically. So yeah, Ceres is a dwarf planet. It looks like this. I wasn't sharing the right screen, but now you can see it again. We get some interesting color fringing as we get too close to it because that's just the nature of, you know, RGB imaging. Have a good night, Slim Man. And then I zoomed out. I zoomed out a lot. And the reason I zoomed out is because I want to show you guys a new dwarf planet I learned about recently called Quora. And whenever you click on it, you end up clicking on a different object. So just now I went to click on Quora, and instead I clicked on some random asteroid that I don't even know if we know where it is. Because it looks like we clicked on the Barry Center. But let's try to click on Quora. See, it's very hard to click on Quora. And I can't spell Quora in my brain. There we go, Quora. So, bottom line is, you know, as we know, everything from Mercury to Neptune is on the same plane of the ecliptic, right? These lines here. But Pluto is a little bit off the plane of the ecliptic, and you can see Pluto back here and how its orbit is at an angle. And then as we get to the other dwarf planets, you got Haumea and Maki Maki up here. And they're at like totally different angles, right? You see they're kind of like little, like, one here, one here. And then you got Eris way out here at a 600-year orbit. And we didn't even talk about Setna yet, which for whatever reason isn't exactly referred to as a planet in this case, but it basically counts as the same group. It's a dwarf planet. So Quaoar is a relatively new one. We're going to get Reggie to chime in on that for us, because I think we should definitely, hear Reggie out. Reggie also gave us some interesting pictures of Quaoar. So we're going to look at those too in a moment. So I'll show you the pictures while we wait for Reggie. Can I get this in a pop-out window? I got one picture of Quaoar. I'm going to open up all the new pictures of Quaoar. These are artist renditions of Quaoar. And we got one picture that shows Quaoar alongside the moon and Pluto. So we're going to pull this up on the right screen, and we'll have Reggie tell us a little something about them. So, Reggie, did you generate the speech yet? Okay, good, he did. Okay. Reggie, tell everyone about Quaoar. Oh, wait, real quick. Wait, Reggie, don't tell anyone about Quaoar yet. We're going to fly into Quaoar real quick. So, I don't think it's a real picture of Quaoar. I think it's like a guesstimation of what it looks like. Like, we don't have detail like we do from the New Horizons probe. I'm pretty sure we don't have this level of detail. So, I'm pretty sure it's like more of a guess than anything else. Now, interestingly, it has two dwarf moons, or one speculated dwarf moon. So you got Waynot, which reminds me of Wei-Yun from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Hey, what up, Pops? Good to see you, man. These dwarf planets would be great settings for a sci-fi adventure. For a sci-fi adventure film, book, or show. Funny story there. I had a couple ideas of how I can use these in a literary manner, or even make maybe make an AI short film or something like that. I figure like these would be good places to maybe put a time capsule or some kind of outpost, maybe. I don't know if it would necessarily be a manned outpost. That's the thing. That's like, you got to think about the practicality of doing something like that. But it definitely has come to mind. Certainly in a prospective sci-fi future, these could totally have a place in that. I mean, there's definitely, something like Super Dimension Fortress Macross. I feel like these dwarf planets would have been utilized if they were known objects in the original series. I mean, Pluto fits into Space Battleship Yamato. I think they visited, Jupiter, the rings of Saturn in SDF Macross, and the movie they did, Do You Remember Love? So, I would think of like even Sedna would be an extremely interesting place to put something like a time capsule. Golden Age comic. Golden Age comic character new adventure. That's an interesting way to go. I see where you're going with that. Now, here's one of these walnut-shaped moons. Now, some of the moons that we have real images of around Jupiter and Venus actually have this walnut shape, but Space Engine also seems to use it as a placeholder a lot. So, in this case, I know it's a placeholder because we don't have clear images of this. And we can definitely pull up a real picture of Quaoar while we're at it. Quaoar. I always have to spell it out when I'm typing it because. So let's look at a real picture of Quaoar. This is a real picture of Quaoar, guys. Image processing by Melina Theisnot. Image credit NASA, CCA, CSA, JWST, NeoCam. Okay, this was taken on JWST NeoCam. But yeah, I could picture it like, sort of like Superman's ice palace. I know it's not called an ice palace, but, just call it an ice palace. It kind of like, the weird Kryptonian outposts, that sort of thing. I kind of see what it goes. There's a lot of Mylar. They really gift wrapped that camera, huh? There we go. So you got like some optical stuff here. So I think I recognize some of these components. This looks like a filter wheel right here, or a filter carousel. So, oftentimes with like a lot of space telescopes, including James Webb, they use a black and white or monochrome camera, and then they use the red, green, and blue filters to get color. So, for example, a lot of astronomical cameras, including mine, will have this type of apparatus on them. In fact, this is an NIRS nearest pupil and filter wheels. The pupil wheel and filter wheel house filters, low and high resolution prisms. That sounds like a diffraction plate. And aperture masks that enable 4 observing modes of the JWST nearest. Now, it's not the same imaging instrument we were looking at, but this gives you an idea of what a filter wheel consists of and why it would be enclosed. Has a dual wheel assembly. I always wanted a dual wheel assembly. I've thought about combining filter wheels, but the software for astrophotography that I have isn't really geared for controlling 2 filter wheels. But in theory, if you had one empty slot on both filter wheels, or one empty slot on one of the filter wheels, you can always, command one filter wheel to go to the empty slot, and then the second filter wheel would be able to cycle through its own different filters. In fact, they would both have to have an empty slot. I think that's how. They would have to have an empty slot on both of them, but you would basically double your filter count minus 2. And you can see like aperture mask. I think that's what we're looking at over here. Notice it's got the same shape as the mirrors on the James Webb. So what does it say here? That a place back to back as shown in figures 1 and 2. And you got your colors there. Pupil wheel. Okay, so I see how this is a whole different way of doing things. Okay, so I see what they're doing here. I kind of see what they're doing here. So, remember, they got a mirror that is held up by 3 vanes on the telescope. So I think that's what these little lines align with. Might be used for I'm not going to pretend to know. I could ask Reggie too, but for now, broadband filters centered at 0.9 micrometers, I guess. Prisms with resolving power at 700 at 1.4 micrometer aperture mask broadband filter. So I think when they say broadband filter, they're referring to like normal color, or at least something resembling, the visual spectrum. Whereas narrowband filter would be like very specific elements, like hydrogen alpha. Medium band filter reminds me of my infrared filter, most likely infrared related. So the idea is that you want to exclude a bunch of wavelengths or colors of light. And then when the camera keeps the shutter open, you're only exposing that particular, wavelength or color. You get more detail of specific types that way. But let's see if we can get the near cam. I want to see the near. Okay, so yeah, this is one picture. That is, who knows. This is this is the telescope at the Palomar Observatory that discovered Quasar. This is showing you the orbital path. You can see it kind of goes up and down. That's what these little lines or candlesticks, whatever they're called, represent. Diagram showing Quasar's orbit, gray, around the sun with the outer planets shown. The vertical gray lines along Quasar's orbital path mark its position above and below the ecliptic plane. And then this is a size comparison of Quasar to the Moon and Earth, of course. An artist's impression of Quasar with its speculated outer ring and its moon Way Not. That's Way Not. Light curve graph showing the star's brightness as seen by the Gemini North Observatory in August 2002. Occultation by Quasar and its 2 rings. So basically, they're measuring the slight decrease in brightness and inferring that there is something obscuring the light. And so the major dip here is definitely the dwarf planet, right? That's definitely whenever it blocks the light from the sun. That's what you're seeing here. And I guess they're speculating that one of these is the moons, one of these is, or some portion of the rings, etc. Way Not as seen from Earth 2003 February, so February 25th. And we can actually go to that date so we can see this exactly as it shows. So let's go to February 25th. And just so you guys can see what I'm doing, I'm going to zoom out. Oops, wrong button. Okay. So we're going to do February 25th. So we got to go to the date and time in the bottom left corner. We're going to do 25 to 2023. And hopefully the time doesn't matter, because if it does, we're not going to have the right time. Julian date 246000.5. So probably 12 o'clock. Oops. Are we centered on Quora right now? So Waynot is on the top left. Oh yeah, it's about right. So look, this picture and this picture. A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, center, A, B. Yeah, kind of pretty close right there. Okay, so these are orbital resonances. Not going to get into that right now. Ah, this is a cool. Is this a GIF? Yeah, but this is a GIF. Quora from the New Horizons probe viewed at a distance of 14 astronomical units. That's pretty cool. Because even at 14 AU, it was pretty much closer to it than we are right now. How many AU is this? Hey, Reggie, how many astronomical units away from Earth is Quora? About 42 to 44. So 40 AU away is about the approximate. So now I do want to see what a NeoCam looks like, or what the physical NeoCam. So is this it right here? So it's a testing rig or testing unit. This is a model in one of the CAD applications. This is an infographic of James Webb Space Telescope instruments and their observation ranges. This is actually cool. Okay, so NeoCam is for near infrared. That's the key right there. So the imagery you're looking at, the one real image we've seen so far, is done using the infrared portion of the spectrum, which I've used it on nebulae. I could probably find a picture of a nebula, maybe the California Nebula. Yeah, let's do the California Nebula. That's going to be on the remote network, I think. Let's see. We're going to go to backslash network drive. So we may have a picture of the California Nebula in the infrared spectrum that I could actually show you if it comes up on that network drive. I don't know if I'll find it in a timely manner. And it looks Miri. They did a Star Trek episode about Miri. Near focal plane assembly. So those are the image sensors. So sometimes they'll have like 4 CCD sensors together or next to each other, and they'll just have a little separation there. But it's a way of combining the resolutions of 4 separate sensors on one plane. So this is actually showing you the visual spectrum, I think. Long wavelength channel, red, green, blue, basically, and then different slivers of each of those parts of the spectrum. And this is essentially what the James Webb Space Telescope is bouncing its light around in. Collimator triplet subassembly. Yeah, that's cool. Dichromic beam splitter. Long wave filter assembly. Long wave triplet subassembly, etc., etc., etc. Pupil imaging lens. So you got a lot of little things there. And just for those who don't remember what the James Webb Space Telescope is, it's this apparatus here. Is that a real picture of it? I guess so. It might be a model, but This is Mylar space blanket, and they had to build and test this multiple times to make sure that it would unfold neatly. Because the idea is that this is the sunshade. This keeps the sun. The sun is kept on the bottom of this basically, and then the mirror, of course, is pointed at whatever they want to observe. Light bounces off the mirror, forms a cone, hits the little mirror on the back of this black object here, and then the light is focused down here, and then this is where the camera is located, behind this, whatever you call this piece here. And so this is your aperture. The wider this part is, the more light gathering power you have. And here we go. Testing of the sun shield. This was a big deal at the time they did it. Testing a mirror of carbon dioxide snow. So they're literally like cleaning a test mirror of carbon dioxide snow. Huh. Interesting. Main mirror assembly from the front with mirrors attached. And then these are diffraction spikes. So remember, the way that telescope is designed, the second, you can even see it's folded up. See this part here is folded up. Remember, it forms a triangle or tripod in front of the mirror. When you take a picture of a bright star, you'll get these patterns. So if we look at a James Webb Space Telescope, you'll see this cross star-shaped pattern. That's because of the orientation of both, these veins. In fact, that's what these green lines. So the green line is basically showing you that this is a mirror image. So what's happening is this is obscuring the light that's coming in when it's really bright. So it's showing you that this part of the spike is formed by this vein. The other diagonal spike is formed by this vein. So it's basically duplicated on both sides of the mirror. And then the third one, so that's how you get, basically how you get what? You get 1, 2, 3 different lines or 6, points on that star, so to speak. You're getting 6 points because there are 3 veins that are obscuring the mirror. And so if we want to get like a JWST deep field, you'll notice that the deep field images will have this attribute to them. See, you got the bright stars have these diffraction spikes. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing the reflection of the veins, or the way that light is being diffracted by the veins when it's really bright. Meanwhile, you're also seeing, this is a long exposure taken at, across multiple days, although I don't know if that was multiple days. Let's see if it tells us. Man, it's a long article. I don't want to read the whole thing. A composite exposure. These images are a composite of separate exposures acquired by the James Webb Space Telescope using the NIRCam instrument, near infrared. Several filters were used to sample broad wavelength ranges. The color results from assigning different lenses, hues, colors to each monochromatic grayscale image associated with the individual filter. In this case, the assigned colors are red, green, blue, and some of it. They use 2 filters for the blue, actually. So I wonder if I can find my picture of the California Nebula. I'm going to really old astro imagery right now on my left screen. M56. What is M56? Did I ever process this data? Whoa, that's a bad picture. So apparently that's a bad picture of M56. What's up, Ann Gaming? Good to see you. I was trying to find my picture of the California Nebula. That's what I really want to show you guys, because that would be a solid example of like, oh, wait a second. What's this here? Damn it, I keep clicking cancel by accident. Okay, that is not really anything there, huh? Okay, that's what we're going to do, the on Linux routine, guys. On Linux. So how are we going to use Linux to help us? So we're going to just search that folder for the word California, and we got nothing. Oh. Maybe oh, you know what? I'm a grammar. Oh, yeah, there we go. Look at that. Capitalize the word California. Okay, so 22 November. November 22. So I was close. I was in the right year. So we're going to go to November 2022. The date is the 20th. And there we go. California Nebula. And I don't know if this camera had the filters labeled. This was years ago. But according to this was hydrogen alpha, which is a ionized wavelength of hydrogen. So we're going to see this same object in infrared in a second. So this one's probably not a very long exposure, or we might have had cloud cover that night. So let's zoom out and see. Yeah, you can see how there was clouds on this night. That's why one picture has a little more contrast than the other. So let's go back real quick. Let's see here. Which one is this one here? Okay, so we got another one open, and all of the images always have, there we go. Okay, this is ionized oxygen. I actually expect nothing from this image here. Yep. And especially with the conditions that night, definitely not. And then I have a folder called NAM, North American Nebula. Oh, that one might be interesting. Okay, so this is perfect. Well, not perfect. This should be a good contender here. Okay, so interestingly, we got nothing there. This would be the green filter, so we're not going to do green. Ooh, okay, I have a processed image here, so I think we're going to get something. This is hydrogen. So let's open up the unprocessed one first so you guys can see what that looks like in hydrogen alpha. Okay, so California Nebula, you can see here like that. Actually, it's North America Nebula. It's shaped like North America, basically. And I'm going to show you one of the TIFF format images. Sorry, I could not load autosave.tiff. Okay, so this application doesn't like these images. So I'm going to open up. Do I have Photoshop opened? I do have Photoshop open. Good, I don't have to reload it. This is Reggie dressed as the Men in Black. Here comes the Reggie in Black. I tried using 11 Labs to make this song just like the Men in Black song, but it wasn't happening. Okay, so this one here, it doesn't have any of the contrast adjustments applied to it. How do I get the color curves again? The thing? I'll just use the menu. I got this. Adjustments. Levels, curves. There's no curves on this one. That's interesting. So we get a little more detail. It's really not that impressive, this version here. Like reason I'm looking for the infrared version is because the infrared version is like dramatically better. And I'm not even sure if I was imaging in infrared by 2020 or 22. I might have stopped infrared by then. So I might have to go back to 2021 or even 2020. So let's see. I was going to do North America. So I'm just going to do the keyword North. Well, I guess we could do the word nebula. We try keyword nebula. I just realized. Oh, wait, never mind. I got it. Turtle nebula. You guys know how much I love turtles. Man, that's disappointing. Yeah, we end up with piles of unusable image data. It's pretty normal, actually. It kind of sucks, but it's just, luck of the draw. Okay, here we go. NAM, North American Nebula again. So that picture stinks, so I'm not going to show you that one. But I think this one might be a good one. Nah, this one is not a good one. Let's go back in time to 8/20/21. Ooh, here we go. Okay, I found an interesting folder here. You have a good night, So Cruz. It's good good seeing you. Thanks for tuning in. So let's see here. Monkey Nebula. I need something in infrared. Maybe we'll save that for next week. But let's just see what we got. Let's see. We're going to go through a random selection here, guys. So these ones actually processed this one in the past. So there is a color composite laying around of this object here, M56. And basically, you know, when we did this on L-Stream a few weeks ago where, oh, wait, is this the final cut? No, this is the Veil Nebula. Oh, okay, that one's interesting. That's a star mask. We use that to kind of filter out the stars while being able to make the nebula more detailed. There we go, Veil Nebula. Now, this one here is not, you know, normally I would map the hydrogen alpha to a shade of ruby red. Perhaps I'll revisit my Veil Nebula data. I didn't realize I had good Veil Nebula data. This is typically, if I remember correctly, this is a winter. Is it a winter target? This was taken in August, apparently. And then this one was taken in the S2 filter. So actually, I can get different shades of red. Basically, sulfur, ionized sulfur is a different shade of red. So you can have two shades of red, or you can use the Hubble palette. Map hydrogen alpha to yellow so that it contrasts with the red of the sulfur filter. And that is a popular way, especially when you're doing scientific analysis on images. But I want to find the infrared images, man. But yeah, I have some like incomplete processed images here, apparently. Incompletely processed images that I could touch. Okay, this one was in. This is a video. I took a video of a nebula. That makes no sense. I don't know why I would take a video of a nebula. See, there's definitely a method of searching for the metadata, but we're not about to go down that. If this was the beginning of the stream, I would have definitely done it that way. Search for the basically I would tell it over here, it would say on camera filter wheel, and I would tell it to search for the corresponding filter name, which would be IR. The infrared filter I used was interesting. It would block out all of the wavelengths of light below 720 nanometers. So everything above 720 nanometers up to the limit of what the camera can capture would actually register really well, like exceptionally well. And it was good because there were times where like conditions weren't perfect, and I'm using it, the type of telescope I used at the time would not have that good of, would actually have too much zoom actually. So it was very hard to keep it steady. Yeah, just see a star field there. So North American Nebula didn't cooperate with me at the time. I don't know why. Wrong name starfish trio. That's an interesting name. And then some of these actually tests images on different equipment that I was testing at the time when I was tuning everything. But I don't think we're going to find what we're looking for here. Oh yeah, these are dark calibrations. Okay, this is no. There we go. Now the search. This wasn't working a minute ago. The search feature. Were we here already? Okay, we got some coordinates. Okay, this one here says on-camera filter wheel. Definitely, I actually have some scripts on the backyard PC that help to go. Okay, this is hydrogen alpha. It's a very masculine hydrogen filter. It's hydrogen alpha. Really just got a bunch of stars in this one. Very nice star field, actually. Did we open that one already? Oh, well, think we're getting warmer here. And all of these were taken with the camera set to negative 15 degrees centigrade in order to reduce the amount of noise and dark current and things of that nature, including the graininess, yada, yada, yada. Let's just see what the picture looks like. Okay, that's a blank image. I've never seen a blanker image. What about this one here? Okay, this one here, you can actually see the nebula, but the camera or something was shaking. There might have been a cloud preventing the auto. Okay, this is a clearer image, but is it infrared? Tell you, I'm having a hard time reading through this list here. That's why I created a script that isolates that information. If we ever do a dedicated stream on Astro Image Review, I'll make sure I have that up. Let me see. Yeah, okay, so I'm just gonna do keyword search. Oh, it's down. Oh, yeah, here we go. We got infrared. Okay, found infrared filter. So we're gonna open up a selection of images. I'm gonna close out the ones we already opened. I'm gonna show you examples of like what straight infrared imagery looks like. Unprocessed infrared imagery, and with some luck, these will be ones that will pop out. So this is a Celestron C8. This telescope has a very high focal length, which means that it's a little unstable with the zoom. Also, you'll notice that we have a boxier image. My newer camera has a more, widescreen aspect ratio to the images. Just two different image sensor types, basically. And this was taken with a exposure time of, and it says it over here, I think that's 300 seconds. That would be 5 minutes, because it can't be 300,000. Or is that the gain setting? No, I think it's the exposure time. Let's open up another one and see what we get. We're going to open up random ones. Well, we're saving for next week. I'm sure I'll find a nice picture of the North American Nebula for you guys. North American Nebula AF. I know I don't have auto. Oh, that might have been when I was testing autofocus. And this is clearly autofocus not working. Yeah, it took me, you know how long it took me to get autofocus working? A while. Let's see here. We're going to see if we got one thing to wrap it up on. I'm looking. Golden Eye Cluster. Let's see what the Golden Eye Star Cluster looks like. It doesn't look that exciting, but we'll zoom in on it. Looks a little questionable, to be honest. We got some. Oh, here we got logarithmically enhanced. This one was definitely, almost certainly infrared. With the North American Nebula on a good night or a halfway decent night, it was easy for me to get this type of detail. And one of the things that hydrogen alpha filter will often exclude a lot with the infrared filters, I often got a lot of this shaded detail that I wouldn't get from any of the narrowband filters. And the color filters would be more unforgiving. They would tend to overexpose or lose contrast in regions like this. So if we zoom in at 100% zoom, it's actually a low res image. So this is how far we came with getting better cameras. And I think I did different logarithms. That one came out pretty good. See, that one pops out pretty good. And somewhere I have one that's been done up in red. And this is M71. It's a star cluster. Beyond that, we got this processed image of the moon. It's probably overly processed, if I'm being absolutely honest. It does look good from afar. But as the saying goes, good from far, but far from good. But it's not terrible either. This was definitely taken on my newer telescope. This was not taken on my... Oh, this is a better one with the color on it. So my goal with this image was to get good color, and I think I actually did pretty good with the color on this. I was trying to balance out not oversaturating it, but I did want to capture the color on it. And this was done using a black and white camera with a red, green, and blue filter in separate passes. And we would take like a dozen pictures in red, stack them. In fact, we take 100. We take like 300 pictures in red, green, and blue each. You'd stack the 300 pictures. You save your red composite. You do the same thing with the blue and green stack, actually. And then you take the 3 final pictures and you make your RGB composite. And then this is UFO footage I took. It's not really UFO footage. Oh, this is my Celestron C8. So this telescope was cool because this is like no extra zoom. This is like basically the default level of zoom you get. It gets to the point where the atmosphere gets in your way. But unlike my current telescope, which has very good optics, but it doesn't have a high focal length, doesn't have zoom per se. You can see these lines on the moon, these little striations, for example, or whatever they're called. But you don't see details like that on my current telescope. You start to see things like craters inside of craters. The thing that my Celestron C8 did really well, it could spot lunar mountains, like just in general. It could spot them to varying levels of detail. And, I might fix that telescope because the damage to it might not be that bad. This is a higher exposure time. Once again, you see some lunar mountains there. You can see I'm jiggling the mount. I might have been moving the camera manually for this one. I don't even know if I was on a motorized mount yet. Probably was motorized. But you can see how the atmosphere, any thin clouds coming in at an oblique angle, tend to have that impact on it. And this was probably a windy night. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, see if we got anything cool here. And we're going to wrap it up with the lunar images tonight. So I do want to thank you all for tuning in so far. And for bearing with me on such a late show here today. Oh, and this one you can see some clouds. Yeah, I got to say, like, using the Celestron C8, it was amazing for lunar imaging, but it gets boring taking pictures of the moon. It also is very data intensive. I mean, when you're doing just video like this isn't too bad. Even though this video here is 8 gigabytes and it's 2 minutes long, because the clouds are there, I don't really plan on processing this into a final image stack. So this would be the type of video that would be a strong candidate to be compressed and just delete the original or back it up to optical disc or something, because or removable hard disk drive. We got options here basically. And let's take a look at the frame rate we utilize. So this one we filmed it at only 30 frames a second. But like one of the things that you don't see on my current telescope usually is like little peaks in the middle of the craters. It's harder to see that type of detail. But on this telescope, this Celestron C8, we can see that. And obviously, like, this is me just trying to get a picture on nights when it was not ideal. But, you win some, you lose some. What is that? It's a bird. Oh, that's Jupiter. You can tell Jupiter. He's got a little red spot. It's got one of the moons next to it. And this one, I think I took multiple. I think I was changing the settings in the middle of a multi-image sequence. So to get a good picture of Jupiter, you have to take multiple pictures, then stack them together. Generally, I found what worked better for me was to essentially treat it like a video, and then feed that video to your processing software. This one doesn't indicate any filters, so this was straight black and white. Eventually, I refined my workflow so I can actually do color. But this looks like this was a night where I was doing nothing but Jupiter. Oh, Saturn. And you can see there's a lot of banding on the image there. That's something my newer camera handles much better. So you don't get those horizontal bands in the images like we did on the old camera. This was back when I actually, if I wanted to use a filter, I would have to manually swap the filters. And even if I had a motorized filter wheel back then early on, I'd have to sit outside with the telescope to move it. Eventually, I was like, okay, I eventually got it set up where I could do it remotely. But then every time you change filters, you have to refocus the image because the focus is different. So without until I got a motorized focuser, that was very impractical. But yeah, you can see like a lot of stripes on this image at certain scales. So this is something that, yeah, the newer camera definitely manages. This is the Pleiades. For a long time, I couldn't get detail on the Pleiades. Turned out I was doing something wrong with what they call stretching the histogram. Ooh, well, let's see Rosette. We really wrap it up after Rosette, I think. I see nothing here. Some of the new images. In fact, let's take a quick review. I'm sorry. I know I said the moon be the last thing, but I want to do two things. One, the telescope that I was talking about, this is the Celestron C8's mirror right here. That's an 8-inch, that's about an 8-inch mirror, 8-inch aperture. So that was the telescope that I chipped the mirror on. Not the primary mirror. The one I'm holding in the picture is basically fine. But what you'll see here is on this here. Let me see. I'm cycling through the images here. This is the part that moves the mirror forward and back for focusing. And at one point, I had a motorized focuser push it so hard that it bent this pin, which was relatively inconsequential for the operation of the telescope. So that wasn't really an issue. But where the issue was, and there's another shot of the mirror right there. That's an luminized mirror. Basically, the glass is polished into a curve. And then you they put it in a vacuum chamber and they basically deposit a very thin layer of aluminum onto that camera. Onto that mirror, I'm sorry. And wait, I got a video here of the mirror. I just want to make sure I'm not panning around too much. I'm in my pajamas. Oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is going to be cool. This is the secondary mirror. So on the front of the Celestron C8, you have this glass up here that's called the corrector plate. And that's because the way the mirror is polished, it's spherical. It's not aspherical. So this actually corrects the light coming in so that the light that bounces off the mirror can hit the secondary mirror. Now, when you're looking at the telescope through an eyepiece, this is the mirror you're actually looking at with your eyes. Now, at some point, I was adjusting this mirror, and the edge of the mirror got chipped. So this is before I chipped the mirror. This is me cleaning the mirror, actually. This is me in the middle of a cleaning procedure. But it turns out the part of the mirror I chipped off might not even be consequential to the image quality. So I'm going to do a little research, find out. But it may be actually pretty trivial to fix it up and put it back into work. But the reality is I have to choose which telescope I want to use at any given time. So to give you an idea, when I broke this, I had this telescope down for maintenance. This was before I actually chipped the mirror. I was using this telescope. Now, this is the telescope I mounted to the back of the 8-inch telescope as what they call a guide scope, because you needed a higher magnification scope as a guide scope. So I just happened to put I put my primary imaging equipment onto the back of this low-cost, lower end but decent telescope. It's an 80mm lens or aperture on the front. I used to actually have to sit at that table to operate the telescope in person. So I have a little cover in case it starts to get a little foggy outside. But, I have to choose. I have to and every time you dismount the telescope, you got to rebalance the counterweights. You got to make some decisions there. In an ideal world, I would have a $4,000 telescope mount. This was $1,600 at the time. The $4,000 mount, it's got to cost more now. It probably costs like $5, $6, $7. But anyway, you would have what they call a dual saddle mount, and I would put the orange telescope side by side with my modern telescope, my current telescope. That's how I would do it. So I could kind of just aim at both telescopes and then choose to take pictures on both or one. And that's another challenge. Is like if you have two telescopes mounted, you got to decide: do you want to have like two cameras? There's a lot of decisions there. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up right here with a picture of the surface of the sun. That's, you can see like a little sunspot there. You see some swirl pattern there. Maybe next week I'll have some processed imagery. This is not really what I would call processed imagery, but this is about what you would see through through the solar filter I use. If you put an eyepiece into my solar filter, this is actually what you would see. We use a black and white camera because really, even if you're seeing the red, it's only in shades of, it's only shades of gray or red anyway. So ultimately, a black and white camera can be remapped to red. It's not a big deal. Looks like, okay, so we don't have the image viewer for the raw frames. Oh, okay, this is a wide shot. So this is using my guide scope. I got a wide shot, and I think during solar eclipses, this might be how I do it. But yeah, I think that about concludes this stream today. So from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of the chat, I do want to thank everyone who tuned in tonight, up to and including Game Gear Goddess and Gaming, So Cruise 119, Pops. That's a great show. He does a show on Tuesdays with Ironcaster, Stone Cold Loki, and I can't remember Mrs. Mouse's name right now. The mouse, you know her name, Squeaker Mouse. She's really sweet. Orc Warship Reviews, Alicia Snow. I did not find time to play Arconian tonight, nor did I find time. I forgot to play freaking Planetarian. Maybe I'll play it tomorrow. I do want to play it on stream. Maybe I'll record it. But I think that's more appropriate to do on a live stream so that people can actually see it. But either way, most likely Luda Gamer Overrated Pro. I think I'll just be reviewing Narcissus since I've already saw that really recently and am familiar with the material. And as for Babylon 5, we got to discuss that wager, that barter on what show to watch. Yeah, so Luda Gamer Overrated Pro has agreed that she'll watch an episode of Star Trek or Babylon 5 if I or Gerardo watch or read Planetarian or Narcissus. And those are basically visual novels. Anyway, we also had Slim Nim here. We also had Anime Night 1992. Thanks again for tuning in, man. Good to see you, man. I got to check out some of his content. You saw the content, guys. You saw his channel. He's got some cool stuff on there right now. Some cool recent stuff. We also had Lady Mist, RS218, who is streaming live right now on his channel playing Nintendo DS, but the good one. The one, it's like a DS 3. Is that a 3DS? 2DS, I guess, because it's certainly not a 3D screen there, but a 3DS does have that larger, wider screen on the top half of the clamshell. In addition to that, we had Lemon Pie here, Lemon Pie Citrus. We had DJ Play Nice. We had Real Wade Nation Gaming Clips. He told me to check my messages. And he sent me a clip. Let's see what the clip he sent me was. Ow. Okay, that's not, come on, that's not a way out. I mean, I'm not really a Puritan. Jesus. Shit. Oh. I did not see that coming. All right. He wins the internet for today. Real Wade Nation Gaming Clips wins the internet today. You did say 5. Okay, good. I thought I misunderstood you. I'm so happy. You said 5 episodes. That's a hell of a trade. I feel like we should be watching and reading Narcissus and Planetarian in exchange for 5 episodes. I mean, geez. So, real quick, I have a mini PC plugged in my computer here. I don't know if I can pull it out, but this is plugged in right now. It's on. It's kind of warm. It's really warm, actually. And at some point, I want to do a comparison and contrast. I want to compare and contrast the audio settings in Windows 8 and Windows 10. To do that, okay, so check this out. Luda Gamer Overrated Pro. This is super annoying. So this machine, it doesn't boot up anymore. I think I have to factory reset it. I don't know what happened to it, but it just keeps booting into an update and restarting. And I was hoping there's a hotkey that I could press while Windows is booting up. I'm actually checking the computer right now. I'm checking the back of the computer. Trying to see if there's like a reset button here or something. There is a hole in the front. There's a hole in the front. What is that? It has some. I can't read it. There's something written on here. Yeah, there's a clear CMOS switch on the front of my mini PC. This little thing here. This is says Trig Key Green 3. Green G3. Trig Key Green G3. And it's got a custom Windows boot logo. That's probably why it's getting messed up in the middle of an update. They definitely used like a bootleg copy of Windows 11. A board error, really? But this thing is a superior piece of... I can't be a board error. If anything, it might be a bad SSD. I mean, I'll open it up, I guess, and inspect the components, but I can boot up the Windows 11 flash drive on it, I guess, but that's the reason I bought it. I bought it because I had Windows 11 on it, and anytime I need to do anything like a tutorial or show something to someone or test a piece of software in Windows 11, actually, I bought it for two reasons. So I could do that when I need to test software in Windows 11 because I don't want to run Windows 11, so if I needed a real machine. But the main reason I bought it because I could always use a virtual machine, right? I had a virtual machine with Windows 11 on it for a while. Barely used it. I still have one laying around. Anyway, but the main reason I bought this was as a video relay because in order for my dad to be able to DVR Fox News and play on the MB Media server, the only way to do it was to output the video from the cable box, input it into this, and yeah, I could boot it into a flash drive. Yeah. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I haven't tried a flash drive yet, but I could definitely boot into a flash drive. I have a flash drive on my bike right now, so I can go to my bike, get the flash drive, plug it into this, attempt to boot it up. Maybe do a repair install of Windows 11. Oh no, damn it! I got to make a Windows 11 flash drive anyway. How inconvenient. Anyway, that is besides the point. Once again, you guys, thank you all for tuning in. At some point, I'll sit down with this because for next week, I'd like to do that. Demo. I want to show the audio settings in Windows 10, some of the settings that I need to tweak on my end and how I tweak them, and then show how you get to those settings in Windows 11 because it's not radically different. Like all the same options are there. They're just kind of buried a little differently. There's a different set of like steps, like sort of the way the navigation is. Sometimes Windows has 3 ways to navigate the same thing, and sometimes they add an extra layer of navigation to make it more user-friendly. So, sort of like the Windows XP classic control panel versus the new control panel or whatever they called it. Yeah, with that being said, once again, for anybody watching on the replay, and yeah, if anyone wants to raid Aris, he's just playing the Nintendo DS game, but if anyone wants to see Nintendo DS, and great seeing you, Pops, you are up early, my friend. Aris218 is presently streaming Final Fantasy VIII, which is the Final Fantasy ever, and yet they made like 4 more games after that. So is it really the Final Fantasy? Anyway, for anybody watching on the replay, if you have any... Oh, wait, Reggie, did you want to say goodnight? Hey, Reggie, thanks for the info about Quar. Oh, can you tell us about... Damn it, I forgot to replay your audio of Quar. I'll make a short video where you tell everyone about Quar, I promise. In the meantime, Reggie, please say goodnight to everyone. I exported a WAV file of his speech. Reggie will be doing a short about Cool War soon. In fact, we'll use the 11 Labs voice. It sounds amazing when you do that. It sounds pretty nice. He just sounds a little more polished. He has better mannerisms. It's great. All right, Reggie, say goodnight to everyone. Say goodnight. Oh, you're processing? All right, buddy. I'll wait for you to process.
Very well. To all passengers aboard tonight's slightly delayed and questionably scheduled broadcast, thank you for traveling with us through UFO footage, Venusian death probes, classified sensor systems, and the frozen frontier beyond Neptune. Remember, if an object in the night sky appears to be a glowing biblical wheel angel, first check whether someone accidentally inverted the flare polarity settings. This is Reggie, conductor of the Late Night Express, reminding you to keep your telescopes focused, your hard drives backed up. End of line.
Thanks, Reggie. And for anybody watching on the replay, if you have any questions, comments, ideas, or concerns, please leave a comment. Please consider liking and subscribing if you're not already subscribed. And for now, we shall hereby